it's pretty much a guaranteed replacement. I was surprised with that one. Good meeting. Very good. He really kind of went over the details, I thought, on the whole fire and infrastructure. The thing that I got a kick out of too is the way that they're calling it the human infrastructure, meaning the portion of the bill that Biden wants to put towards all the free education and all that to take care of the people. He's calling it the human infrastructure
versus physical.
Yeah, versus physical. So, but I guess as things ramp up, when you hear that, that's pretty much what it is. So, good need. Okay, anyone else?
Well, just to mention, the audit committee we have two really highly trained financial professionals who are independent from the city, and they're on the audit committee with the mayor and myself. And it's just really good to have their financial expertise to assist, not to assist, but just to give us a second witness of just how well the city's run. And that was the overarching conclusion from the meeting today, was they were both just saying how well the city's run, and that they're happy to take part in this because they can tell from the financial statements themselves just how well the city's being managed. So that helps the mayor and I, because we're not financial professionals. We wouldn't be able to ask the same questions that they were able to ask Tracy and Alex. And so it's just, that's how the audit committee is supposed to function. We're supposed to go there and hear what they have to say and then report to you guys that things are well.
And they've asked questions already, so yeah. You can tell by the questions they asked. Thank you. Anyway, okay. Is that it?
We had a chance to visit watershed tour. I don't know if someone wants to report on that.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom does. It's maybe not.
Great tour, like always. It's interesting to see all the infrastructure of the Weaver River. Myself personally, I've been up the Ogden one before, but never all the way to the Weaver one. I knew some of the infrastructure there, but for those who went, I think it was a very good tour and a good eye opener for the drought and the conditions that really are there.
Yeah, Scott Paxman talked in the ledge meeting this morning, and he first of all, he said there was over 120 people that attended that tour, which is the largest they've ever been by far. But he said that the really funny thing out of all this is the timing of the drought couldn't have been any more perfect with all the discussion on conservation and water and all of that than this year. He said finally, it's been an eye-opener for a lot of the legislators that, oh my gosh, this is for real. So.
The thing is the public, I think the public to a great extent is much better informed than previously through efforts of the city and all the irrigation companies, but there's still a long way to go there, because I know Rick at the canal company, they shut off some yesterday, probably West Layton part of that they service with the secondary systems, and almost immediately, well, even before they shut off, even when they were talking, the complaints were coming in. And so expect a lot of complaints. And most of them are simply because people don't understand that it's not a matter of we're turning you off early to conserve for next year. We're turning you off early because there is nothing left.
Yeah, and Scott talked today about that, but he says, and we've got to hold a certain amount for drinking water. If we don't hold it, and we have another bad year, we don't even have drinking water.
So everything that's up there now is for next year's purpose.
The biggest thing the public doesn't understand is the different sources. That even Layton, all the sources that come, they say, well, look, the reservoir's still full, why am I shut off and you aren't? It all depends on where it's coming from. They don't understand that at all. But yeah, down along that line, my understanding with Weaver Basin is they'll be lucky if we don't have a huge winter to service their culinary contracts alone next year, let alone all their irrigation and secondary and all that stuff. So it is a very dire situation. I think it was good to go see it in person. I mean, personally, I drive up and I see, oh yeah, there's a fair amount of water in the lake. And then you get to the top ends of the lakes and look down, it's pretty.
There is no lake.
But some of the complaints are, why are we getting turned off? It looks like the lakes are still half full. Well, they don't understand, but that bottom part doesn't hold nearly as much as that little bit on the top, and they aren't half full.
Yeah, and drive by Echo, driving up there, that was really sad. I mean, there's parts of Echo that are gone. I mean, it's just, there's nothing up there.
On the other side of the coin though, the message has gone out real well, and they've been able to extend at least a couple of weeks because of the conservation and the efforts people have made as well. So they probably, all of them probably would have been getting close to being shut off.
Early in the year, they identified the first part of August, and obviously they were able to extend it to September 1, so that does bode well for all of the citizens. I mean, I know Layton did a heck of a job, all of our residents in conserving water, but when you look at who all they service, the fact that they were able to extend it 3 or 4 weeks is amazing. But anyway, yeah, that was excellent work, very good.
All the more need to get all the master plan done and built and.
Okay, gee, we could, anybody want a snack right now? Because it happens to be somebody's birthday tomorrow that we need to celebrate. So, since we're talking Utopia, we're gonna have a great presentation. I think we need to pass around the cookies as well. But, Mr. Moss is the first.
Well,
Hey, since it's his birthday.
and then Mayor, according to the calendar that was passed out to us, somebody's birthday's missing out of this. Alex has a birthday the end of the month, according to the news notes that came with our paychecks. But it got left off of this, so
He doesn't.
that's a mistake.
I know his was a few months back.
I meant to get my years.
So is yours not the 30th of September?
It is.
Okay.
I tried covering for you. I know you hate it.
Is it a big one? Is that why you're hiding from
No,
it?
no,
They're all big.
They're all, yeah.
The employees don't think he has one,
Oh.
because he always looks the same.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't wanna cry.
Okay, Gary, that also goes around to
Pass it around.
everybody. That's enough for everybody in the room, so. All right, so while you're getting your cookies, let's go ahead and bring Roger up with For Utopia, right? Roger, I'm sure you're making the presentation.
Yep, do I have a way to plug into an HDMI over here? Historically, I've been able to do it, but I don't know.
It doesn't work. Our connection doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, well, I'll talk to you then.
We don't have enough bandwidth.
Yeah, just unplug it out of the back.
You wanna take one?
Okay, but hijack that.
Tyson, did you get a?
Tyson?
Sure, you gotta have one.
Would you like your snacks for
I couldn't find a mouse, but I found this will work to enhance slides, I think. Even though it's a little weird, but
Yeah.
that looks like that's gonna work. All right.
I'm gonna take care of it. Maybe apes. You're shaking your legs like I am. What are you doing? I don't know.
Good.
There's an early winter
All
coming.
right, well,
That's what we need.
thanks for having me here. Love coming to Layton. You guys are, core, critical city for us. And we got some stats to show you why you're so important to the organization here. Things have gone really well here. So anyways, just refresher, this update serves so much. We have these original founding member cities. Of course, you're there. But this list keeps getting bigger. You probably hear about this. We keep doing additional city partnerships with several additional in the works in the neighborhood here. Obviously, West Point, Clearfield, and Syracuse nearby. I think a lot of the reason that they want to do these partnerships with us is because things have gone well here. We appreciate the city speaking well of the partnership and all the benefits, and it creates some envy among nearby cities when you have the service. So.
I just ask a question. What's the status of all the founding members? Are they still in good standing and strong, or some dropped out, or?
More or less. I mean, technically, there's more founding members that never bonded for a project, never partnered, so we don't really list them here, but technically they're members, just non-pledging members. So that'd be like Washington, Riverton,
Cedar City.
Cedar City.
But these are the strong ones.
These are the ones that participated in the financing and
Yeah.
did something with that membership, essentially, and they have voting rights.
That was kind of my question.
These are the real members.
Okay, none of the original full participation members have dropped out. It's just those that intentionally moved first.
wanted to be members but not be obligated financially. So.
Some of them may come back. I mean, we're in conversation with some of them to do this, but some way they kind of live in both worlds. But mostly these have just been new city partnerships of cities that have never really had any association with us. But yeah, we expect these boxes and then some to be filled, and eventually you'll have a small number of cities here compared to the large number of cities here. We don't see any reason not to continue to grow and expand. It's good for us, it's mutually beneficial, and it's also an avenue to retiring debt a little quicker and better through these partnerships.
Roger, would you say you're getting the interest due to the funding that's
Not
designated
so
use
much. I mean,
permit?
that's bringing a lot of attention to the need to broadband and obviously COVID. But the funding coming down the pipeline is really aimed at unserved areas. And none of the cities we've built fiber projects in would qualify. You know, they all have what's considered by the federal government to be good broadband, but considered by those cities to be garbage. So it's a difficult situation because there's a lot of money. There's nowhere to put that money. It's been the problem of previous federal programs and this new infrastructure bill even. They're expecting to follow the same or similar standards to say if any provider exists in these areas that claims to provide 100 meg download or and 25 meg up, then they're considered served and therefore ineligible for any help financially. And yet those communities are over here like, well, just because Comcast or CenturyLink or somebody like that claims to provide that service, it's not reliable, it's too expensive, and it never performs like that, especially during peak hours. And so we're looking at the new infrastructure bill, at least on the broadband side of things, and it looks like it's going to fail just like previous programs. But there may be some pockets of Utah or very rural areas that might benefit from it.
I noticed Idaho Falls. So is that a look at the future that they're going to expand beyond Utah?
No, we have about 2,000 customers in Idaho Falls. Now it's a partnership, so we don't have any employees in Idaho. What's happened there is, I'd say maybe they're half customers. So what happens is the city of Idaho Falls has a fiber network, and they've built that and designed it, everything according to our standards. So you go there and it's like, this looks just like Utopia, but it says Idaho Falls on the box and it says Idaho Falls on here. But we essentially designed and got that in place for them, but they pay for everything. We charge them for that to help them with their project. And then we are in an operating role for them remotely. So out of our normal office, we said, well, we can configure devices and we can monitor the network and we can facilitate service providers and billing functions and things like that. So every customer up there, we get a monthly fee from those customers. We do the billing with the service providers and remit a portion to them, and they have all the local resources, their technicians and locators and maintenance and all that. So the burden to us is negligible. We haven't hired a single employee to handle Idaho Falls, but it is a nice little revenue for us.
So do you have others similar to that in the future?
Yep. Yeah, there's several in the works that we're kind of having conversations with, but haven't moved forward.
That are out of state.
Yeah, I mean, we're interested in Utah primarily, but the city wants to do a partnership with us, and it's not a burden to us. I mean, obviously look at it and say, oh, they want us to, have 50 employees in that state? Probably not. But if there's things we can do with our existing resources and help them while also helping ourselves financially, why not? So it also helps our providers, gives them more territory and promotes the cause. These are some stats from last year. It was a really good year for us. Generally, we put in 1.7 million feet of conduit, 1.4 million feet of cable in those conduits. It's fiber cable. I should call it cable. Fiber. 20,000 homes that can sign up for the service that couldn't the year before, with over 10,000 actually signed up and being installed. We're gonna go past that this year. We're running really well. Wow. What else do we have? A couple new city partnerships, 30 new footprints released. So now specific to Layton, this is the network, which is essentially a street map of the city with a few exceptions. And we cover, we've gone up there for a little bit here, but there's a couple pockets, if you were to look really closely, like up here. And those are HOA or mobile home parks where there aren't utility easements. That's private, so you have to go in there and negotiate that. I mean, you can't do it without their permission. So we are ready. We've designed the network to handle every single address in the city. And then there's also the growth. I'll talk about that in a second. But we're pretty much done. I'll have to say, from our perspective, the build out is complete, but it never really is 100% complete because it's a living thing. So we're ready and prepared to provide services in a couple of those pockets that are private easement type things, but we're substantially done. This is the availability of the network. So you can say, well, we lingered for many years. This thing started back in 2002 legally, but really bonded, started moving forward in 2004, and all the way up through from 2004 to 2014, we only had about 2,500 addresses that could even sign up for the service. So UIA was formed, and it kind of started building a little bit incrementally. And it was like, hey, we know the need is there, we know the demand is there, and that's when we did our unique partnership with Layton to backstop an independent bond to get the darn thing done finally, right, and expedite that. And we've been very patient, and that's when you see that we very quickly built out the rest of the city. With that, this goes over to the new development. So these are a couple of those pockets, just examples of areas that are in development. It's like around the Temple area. There's some of the west part of Layton where there's new homes and things going in. So we build those and design and build as we go. We could probably do better at that, and so could the builders. It's a little bit of a, hey, when can we show up and get the conduit in the ground, and when is that house going to be ready, and kind of back and forth with them. And sometimes we come in and put the conduit in, and then we come in back 2 weeks later, and the conduit's been cut 10 times. We're like, well, great, now we have to redo this, and so we don't want to go in too early because it gets torn up, but if we come in too late and we miss when that open trench is there. And it's been frustrating.
I thought that was the developer's responsibility.
Yeah.
On all the new developments, to put the conduit in.
I remember.
We would put it in.
Yeah, I don't think we ever passed that ordinance. The ordinance requiring it.
Yeah, as long as the same as the other utilities.
I thought we talked about Utopia and also for potential secondary water that we wanted them to put those lines in.
Secondary water, I think there's a legal hiccup on the question on the unit for Utopia.
Right.
We don't require that on behalf of other telecoms. That was the issue, is the consistency under better communications.
Because of the competition there?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just under the impression that in the new stuff that was going in.
Yeah, we did talk about that, so that's a legitimate issue you raised, but like I said, when we looked at it, and
I can see how.
Well, see, and that's why I know that we've been enforcing the secondary, so I was like, I was part of that same discussion.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, it encompasses.
You guys tried.
It would be nice as well if they would build these homes sequentially.
So generally, you can go in on the same trench though?
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. They would have an open trench for the utilities, and then they get layered in order. We used to go above others. Your water obviously goes the lowest. Gas, other things like that, and they're not always vertical. So we'll often follow the power plan with Rocky Mountain Power, say, okay, where are they putting their stuff, and let's get our stuff into the same trench, put it higher, above it. But yeah, the coordination there, it hasn't been perfect, I guess is my main point. So we probably have had some complaints, if you've heard about them, where someone will move into a house and say, hey, I'm ready, I need broadband, and it may be a few weeks before we can get there. And so we're trying to fix that. We've expedited a couple. There was even a complaint just in the last day or two on the Layton Citizens Facebook group about someone moved in and told it was going to be 4 weeks. And we're like, oh crud, what can we do? And we're scrambling trying to solve that. And it was just it's that issue of here's a house that went up and we didn't know about it, and we knew the development was going in, but didn't have our stuff in ready on time. And so it's a little bit of a constant struggle, not just in Layton. Just getting that coordination down with developers that always communicate, and they don't always know what's going to happen either. It's a little difficult, but they'll get it. and we're working to get better at that process. This is a map. I kept the bubbles a little big so we're not disclosing information about who has services and not, but this shows every customer on the network. The blues are non-residential, so those would be businesses and schools and other things like that, or churches. We have a lot of churches. And then red is residential. This is all of the cities and the subscribers. And so right now, Layton is number 1. We want to hold on to that as long as we can, but you're probably going to get beat out. Not because people in Layton don't love it. Usually we just have some bigger cities. And so you can see Orem is going to be catching you soonest. We're going to be finishing up that city this year with a lot of addresses coming on there. And then West Valley City is the largest city. And that build, we're on a significant build there. And so that one will probably ultimately come out ahead just because of the size. It's the second largest city in Utah. But as of right now, you guys have more customers than any other city. You've done really well. This is specific to Layton. So this chart isn't quite up to date, but currently we have got 8,150 connections in the city. It's growing at about 70 per month, between 70 and 80 a month, which is really good.
So putting that into a percentage on the take rate, knowing that that was our big, making sure we.
I think I got a chart here somewhere
What
for
does
it.
that equate to?
Well, maybe I don't have that one here. About 35% take rate right now.
About 37%, right?
You don't have many that drop off, all right?
No.
What's wrong?
No, I mean, we'll absolutely be 40% plus. It's going up, half to 1% a month. So, 6 months to a year would be at 40%. Nobody's canceling. This was just this was the thing from a day or two ago. And just this was the point is every time you see somebody ask about, hey, I just moved in and I need broadband services, you see overwhelming support. Get Utopia. Again, we're not real happy with this. That's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. And our person had already responded saying, hey, we think we could do 2 weeks. Let's figure this out. But when it came to the responses from residents, it's worth the wait. It's the best service. Wait for it. It's awesome. I'd wait for Utopia. These other satellite options, Comcast, and everything's just nobody's recommending those. Everybody loves it, recommends it. We love seeing that. If I ever get sad someday, I can go read some of the comments about Utopia and
These
spirits.
So these kinds of things don't happen on the internet very much, because usually it's a snowball the other way.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that's an even better indication of how
The
well.
broadband industry is infamous, right? People hate their internet.
Someone would have
providers.
put something about CenturyLink or Comcast, and not picking them out, but if any provider, there would be people who would say, they don't voice positive things. They want to voice a problem like that. So that's an indication of how well it's going.
So things we've accomplished with this, again, this isn't broadband like anything else. This is very special. We see it as community-owned broadband. Ultimately it's owned by the cities, but everything we do is catered towards the benefit of our communities, not the benefit of a shareholder or investor or something like that, right? And so in what we do in the competitive marketplace, we eliminate these. These are things that people everywhere deal with their broadband providers. And once we get this network in place, these things go away. We're not perfect on this. We're working on this still. We're pretty good though. We do build more hardened facilities than anyone else. So, if there's an extended outage, for example, with like the windstorm that takes out the power, all the other providers go down after about 3 to 4 hours, because that's the capacity of the batteries. All of our facilities are generator backup and battery backup. And so our systems are designed to run indefinitely. Now, that's not to say we haven't had an overheating problem. We've got a hut in Layton that has gone down repeatedly because the air conditioners keep getting clogged up with the cottonwood stuff. So we're working on some filters and
Parkway.
cleaning that up, and so it's been a little bit of a pain, and we're getting better monitoring on there and things like that. But generally, it is a hardened infrastructure compared to all the other broadband options. But the fees, the consumer privacy issues, buffering, overage charges, installation fees, we've waived all that. You can sign up for a month and cancel. There's no contracts. It's very easy to sign up. Slowdowns, coverage, cherry picking, throttling, that's all gone. The city will never have these broadband problems ever again. We did a survey recently, we get through these fairly quickly. So access to Utopia fiber has improved my quality of life. We just did a survey a couple months ago this is across all of the Utopia subscribers, and had a couple thousand responses. This one's really cool. We never asked this question about quality of life. Like, do you feel like this has improved your quality of life? Very strong agreeing with that. Are you glad that your city invested in Utopia? I mean, it's a little more than that. You guys own Utopia, right? But people don't always understand that. So being involved in Utopia, we ask it that way. People are very happy that your city's done this. How would you rate this? Let's see, overall quality of the internet provided by Utopia, again, very, very strong. The installation process, how was that? This is one, I mean, it's not a simple install. If you've been installed, it's intrusive, right? You got to build a new thing across your yard and get that in your house. It's not easy, but we work really hard to do as good as we can and fix, the grass, and fix the flower we stepped on and the sprinkler we broke, whatever may happen in that install. And we're pretty happy with how this came back, right? Some people not happy, but statistically very, very good. How's the speed? Oh, we kill it on speed. That one, we got that. On the topic of speed, though, I want to just make a point to that. We see some announcements here and there when some provider goes out there and says, we have hit a milestone. Your city is now gig enabled or fiber or something like that. Like, this city has hit some sort of milestone. Well, Layton has hit a milestone because of this 10 times faster. And what I mean by that is we've seen, there was a big announcement in Huntsville, Alabama, that the city is now gig enabled. Well, a gig, we've been 10 gig here in Layton for a while. Every address in this city can get 10 gig services. So we're a full generation ahead and available everywhere in this community. And the businesses can get 100 gig. And some people are like, oh, that's just some marketing gimmick that you're offering those types of speeds. But we actually do have paying 10 gig residential customers in the city. So it's a real thing, and more we see consumer electronics that support those types of speeds. And most people are still signing up for gig, but you guys are very, very future-proof. And we do want to schedule a future kind of an event in an award type of thing. It's like 10 gig certified city. So that's coming. We'll do that. It's a fun little ceremony thing. Okay, other benefits of this. So obviously the city itself is one of the main reasons we build these networks. So the city has done a lot of stuff with this. These are some examples that we do generally with cities of enabling Wi-Fi networks, the city's own things, supporting utility services, and upgrading your things with smart irrigation, supporting public safety, facilities management. There's a lot of different things. We've talked to your city staff, they're probably like, oh, we do lots more than that. Once you have your own dedicated network, there's all sorts of cool things you can do. We also work with UDOT. We can connect all the intersections with fiber and hand that off to them, and that gives them a lot of capability in the city. And then we also come in and we do a lot of smart city applications on top of all of that. We put in air quality sensors in all of our huts. We have that wildfire detection system, and I show you a demo of it, but the camera broke just recently. So it's still, like, you can look at the video feed, but it's not panning the way it's supposed to, so we're going to replace that. We have the replacement. We just haven't scheduled to replace it yet, so it'll be working soon.
So you ought to do it before fire starts.
Yeah, we're going to replace right in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
It'll be probably the next week. The weather stations those are coming soon, so we've been evaluating different weather stations to hook up. We're putting up LoRaWAN gateways so that you can actually, there's a lot of really cool wireless sensors that you can put out there and use. Some cities use these for like parking enforcement. You may want to do that here. Residents don't always love that application. But in high density parking problem areas, those are really cool. And then there's other things. We have a BYU team that's a student team that's working on for their senior project, the Smart City app. So I don't know if you may already have something like this, but if you wanted to have a Layton City app that had ability to get alerts, ability to go look at your air quality locally, to look at your Utopia fiber service and what its status is, and integrate other city interfaces and things into an iOS app or an Android app. They're building that template as their project. And so if you want to participate in that, that's going to be available to you. We're not trying to impose anything on you. We're excited about that. This is a screenshot of the air quality sensors. You can almost see where Utopia Fiber is, where some other cities, Kaysville maybe has 2 sensors in the city, Farmington 4, Layton, I don't know what we're up to, maybe 30, because we have these at all of our facilities. So you have it down to the neighborhood, and that's important. I mean, the schools actually decide whether it's an indoor day or an outdoor day based on what the readings are off of these sensors. And if you're a school over here, you don't really know, and you'll see there can be a pretty big difference between here and here in a city. Not as much with this. This is smoke coming from California. It's pretty consistent, but with inversion, you can see bench areas at a higher elevation will be very clean air, and areas over here may have very bad air. And so it is actually very beneficial to have it down to a local area. Sorry for living lower. But sometimes canyons also help with that a lot. So you have cleaner air coming in canyons a lot of times with inversion weather. This is just a screenshot of the Edwin wildfire detection system. So it's constantly looking at the video feeds on these. Obviously, it's a screen capture, but it does a histogram analysis and artificial intelligence analysis of the images to try to identify fires and send alerts. I'm on this little thing that pops up and says potential fire, and I get these little false alarms all the time. So we're constantly refining it and tweaking it to make this a really useful system. Right now, just the images themselves are somewhat useful, but we're continuing to work on improving this detection. Right now, it thinks that the sun is a fire, so which it is. So, and also the moon. And surprisingly, it actually surface the moon is really hot, and it does show up and get detected. So we have to build in logic to pull some of that out. Okay, so now what? There's ongoing growth. Obviously, we continue to expand, continue to add new installations, get into those HOAs and mobile home parks. We're into some of those. We just have to work through those agreements. Doing these installations, more and more take rate keeps coming in. It increases our ability to take more of the Utopia debt bond obligations. So each year, I work with our board and our finance committee to figure out how much we can get approved to offset that. So every year, as you're paying on those original bonds from 2004 to 2009, we're making financial progress, and it puts us in a position to, the debt payments on that actually go up every year. So we've been able to cap that and pay more and more of that, but we're anticipating going the other way and going the other way pretty aggressively to decrease that burden every year. And things are looking really good in that direction, but I can't say the amounts. That's something that gets worked out and then approved by the Utopia and UIA boards. There's kind of 2 levels there, because it's got to get money from UIA over to Utopia, and then Utopia is the entity that has that obligation. So this is looking very good, but it'll be a little while before we have specific numbers tied to that. And then future upgrades, we see lower cost of services and higher tiers of service coming in at lower cost and all of that. We continue to upgrade that. We also look to new options for low-income households. So right now, and this is recent, the federal government, as part of the previous act, approved a temporary $50 a month subsidy. That's expired, but this new infrastructure bill has funded a $30 a month subsidy for low-income houses. That should go somewhat indefinitely. It doesn't have an infinite budget, but there's several years worth. I think it's something like $17 billion of the infrastructure bill that's allocated towards that. It's not directly from us. We had applied for it, but it was a much cleaner under that program to do it through the service providers. So basically, you sign up with Beehive and Centricom for sure are already enrolled in that. If you're a low-income household, you sign up with them, and then you go fill out your form with the federal government. If you qualify for low-income housing and other programs, you can get a $30 a month rebate on your service. So that's available today. And that's all I've got. What questions?
I have one. What are the other providers doing in Layton? Are they staying stagnant with what they had? Are they building more, or do you know?
They don't seem to be responding, and what I mean by that is we haven't seen any significant reduction of the cost of services or any upgrades in their infrastructure. Comcast has done some system-wide upgrade of getting fiber a little bit closer to the home, meaning just to the cabinets, but they're still not doing any fiber to the home, which is a little bit crazy. Even in a brand new development, they don't put fiber to the home. Or you're like, cable is end of life. Like what? I mean, pretty much the entire industry has accepted that, but Comcast is just holding on to that. CenturyLink will at least put fiber in new developments. But yeah, there really isn't any action from them to do anything significant. CenturyLink's in a lot of trouble financially. I don't expect anything to happen there. Comcast is doing great financially, but it's a outdated infrastructure, so we don't really anticipate any competitive threat there. So not much, I guess, is the answer.
I saw him quoting something on 2200 the other day, and that's what made me wonder.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't think it was utopia, and maybe it wasn't even fiber, but.
So you'll see, in the city, if you see someone building fiber, it's probably one of two things. It may be backhaul for wireless, so like Verizon or any of their contractors or these other wireless companies, or it's Comcast just getting more fiber into their network, not to the end users, but to their cabinets. And other than that, I would be surprised anyone else would be building fiber.
I'm just curious.
Probably one of those two.
Well, that's a good presentation, good update. Thank you very much. I
Just
love
one
the fact
comment
that
of-
we've done a 180 in the city as far as when Tom and I first got on the council, on the
Well, I think the
attitude
surveys on
towards,
your attitude.
on the attitudes towards utopia and where you're at today, so congratulations is what I'm trying to say. Really appreciate
Thanks.
that.
Also, just a voice of appreciation for our board members, Layton, so Alex and Clint, the time they spend with our meetings, it's not a big thing for them. We appreciate it. We use their time, they participate and provide a lot of value and guidance for the organization. So I appreciate that.
So one other question, then. These new cities, are they going in under the latest plan like we did? Where they're taking the bonds out and building it out, or are you guys doing it?
Similar. With this last push in Layton, basically said, hey, there's $23 million cost to finish the city, and the city provided a guarantee on that. We didn't need to get to a certain take rate to make sure it wouldn't cost the city anything. With Layton specifically, there's a revenue share component to that. So we're in a good position, but the first use of that money was let's pay for the additional installations and growth and things. And with 80 new customers coming on every month, that's about $80,000 a month. It's been funded from that without any cost to the city or anything like that. But we're doing better than that financially, so we will have some opportunity to benefit the Layton more than we would with these other city
But like
partnerships.
your Syracuse is near that, are they doing similar, or?
Yeah, we go in there and say Syracuse was
Same type of arrangement?
about a $19 million project. So we priced that bond, close on it. It's a UIA bond, but if we don't get enough take rate, we need about 29% in that city. And as long as we get 29% of the city to sign up, then the city won't have any financial exposure, and we pay for the debt with the revenue from the system. But we also get revenue for the operations.
But they don't have the option of the revenue sharing.
I do not.
That's the
Yeah.
difference.
That's the
They've
difference.
been very consistent in applying the model, the risk reduction model to all of the cities. But only the member cities, original member cities are allowed to consider that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Access to that, so, and it's been very positive. The take rates in those new cities are very strong. And it's very positive, those that are chosen to do it. And there's more interest all the time. Really has become, Roger is very, very well respected. He's very well respected in this area, across the country. He's invited us to do conferences and out of the home. And Utopia is, a little old Utopia is on the map. Very much, Roger was mentioned, saying we will have a strategic strategy meeting variety of issues. And this morning, I mentioned that in some of these recent conferences, we've had representatives from the state of California there, even people in the Silicon Valley area, right? And they were told Roger that to me, that really the California's system is a mess. And we're actually looking to Utah and what Utah is doing, and Utopia's done is the model that we need to build in California. So you got Silicon Valley people are looking to Utopia to say, you guys have built an open network that's actually working. So it's pretty remarkable. That's not the intention of what we did, but we do a really good job. And those inquiries you talked about, Idaho Falls, happen all the time from places you would not imagine. You wouldn't think it would be logical, but it's just, there's such a demand for this. It's like what the incumbent would say, there's such a demand for this, and for open networks where there's choice and where there's competition, where there's downward pressure on prices and so forth. It's really remarkable. Roger could talk about that all day, but he does a great job. The staff does a really remarkable job. Very dedicated to not just building fiber, but means for communities. They're really, you would believe that in the telecom business. So much of it's just about money and market share and so forth. But these are people who can work about any place. Roger could. And yet they want to build communities.
So as these communities come on and you have the ability to go build them as they want them, or is there a backlog, or?
Depends. I mean, it's our choice, right? We have no obligation to do what we don't want to do, right? So if there's an opportunity that, a city says, hey, we want you to come in and do this, under our terms, we would love to grow and expand it. If there's a project we say that we don't want to do that, we don't have to. So we've been sizing that and saying, hey, there's cities working through RFPs and proposals and conversations, and we're kind of pick and choose what makes sense for us. But I think the queue is going to be full and continuing to fill, and we feel like, hey, that's too much, then we can pull back on that. But as it stands right now,
I guess I'm kind of wondering more on the construction end of it. Is there enough construction people out there to install it as you guys want them to do it?
Right now, our contractors are saying, give us more work.
More work, not less.
But we've got them busier than they've ever been. And there's a concern that with $60 billion coming down from the federal government and broadband, the price of everything is going to skyrocket. So we're, with these new partnerships, it's like we got everything ordered and everything under contract under our previous pricing and commitments. But if a city were to come down, a year from now and say, hey, let's do a partnership with Utopia, it's not going to be as favorable terms as it is right now, because we're anticipating that problem.
Yeah. Like everybody else.
Yeah.
We were talking to Bountiful City, and they were thinking, well, maybe we'll evaluate this for another 6 months before we make a decision. So 6 months might cost you $5 million. It really might. Not because of us, but because of what's happening with constraints on resources out there. Good thing we got this one all wrapped up already, right?
That's your point.
Yeah, you wouldn't be speaking.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're talking about the relationship with the contractors is very good. We've had the same, Utopia's had the same contractors for years and years and years. And so there's a partnership there that exists, a loyalty that exists. They know they're going to get paid, get treated well. And so even in this economy, when you think contractors will be chasing just the highest opportunity, or contractors have said, no, we want to do, as long as there's work for us in Utopia, we're going to stay with Utopia and work. I mean, that's a pretty remarkable thing when they might go out of state or other areas and in the state and make more money. But they're not like, no, we have to come to Utopia.
But you still have them big projects?
Yes.
Amongst a group of them then?
Yeah, still competitive.
Yeah.
But they want to work for Utopia. And it's an odd thing in the business world. It's just based on the partnerships and the history of it. All that has to be competitive, in the market. And anyway.
So this one gets this city, and then the next one gets that city.
Yeah, they expand,
depending on how busy they
expand
are.
their foods and continue. The companies have done really well because there's that demand, and they have to employ more people and provide not much the same wages. So anyway, it's very, very positive. I don't need to overstate
Well,
it.
I'm watching my
That's
time here and want to
Okay.
make sure we get everything in. So I'll turn the time over to Gary to hurry and do our council training moment.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Try and limit it.
Well, and maybe before you get started, what I'm thinking is, knowing that you're gonna try to public exam, anyway, do we need to switch between Chad and Tracy here?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Just Chris can come back whenever. Just want to give you an update on the financial status and we're going to give it another time.
Okay, let plan on that then, that's what I'm trying to say. So Gary, go for it.
So I learned about this phrase right here shortly after leaving law school. Quite frankly, I learned the hard way. I took a job as a planner at the front desk, and one day a guy came in and wanted to build a garage in his backyard. And I looked at the ordinance, and I looked at the setbacks, and looked at everything else. And Zach knows what this means. But anyway, gave him his permit, he went out, he built this gigantic garage. And it looked like a picture theater, an outdoor picture theater. And a short time later, one of the neighbors picked up on it and came in and complained about it. And went back and looked at the ordinance, and I got everything except for the total yard coverage piece. And the total yard coverage piece says that you weren't supposed to cover more than 25% of the rear yard. This thing covered 100% of his rear yard. And so I'm stuck in a really, really tough situation because what this phrase means is, going to the next page, let's see. Let's go this way.
Just do it.
Just roll, right? Yeah. Okay, so ultravirus does not mean sunburn, and it's not a variant of cobra. Okay, ultra is Latin for beyond or outside or in excess of, and then virus indicates powers, authority, capabilities. That's what virus means. And we love Latin. I saw on a great big boat down at Lake Powell one time, Latin for the thing speaks for itself, right over the back of the boat. And so attorneys love to use that. But ultravirus is an important term. I acted, when I granted that permit, ultravirus, I acted beyond and outside and in excess of my authority, of my power and authority to issue a permit, because I was acting outside of the ordinance, essentially is what I was doing. And so what are the situations where you might do that? Well, let me give you an example. The other day, I often get calls from the Home Builders Association, and they like to complain about things that are happening in different cities, and we like to help them as a league. We like to try and help by going to the cities. And there was one situation, you tell me if this was ultravirus, but you had one situation where a developer came in, he proposed his subdivision, the subdivision was approved, but there was a road that he was supposed to build to connect to a UDOT road. So there's a connection to a UDOT road. UDOT has limited access sometimes to their roads, and so it all was predicated on them connecting up to the UDOT road. So UDOT determined they weren't going to let them connect. No connection up to that road. The connection would have cost a bunch of money, and so the developer found another way to do it, which was equally acceptable. A city council person said, you know what? Since you saved so much on that over there, why don't you do this? Why don't you give us a park? Give us enough money for a park. Just add to the subdivision a park. And the developer said, I really don't think that's appropriate. Well, you're not going to get your subdivision approved unless you give us the money. And the money was like $175,000 for a market park or something to develop it. And that was what they had saved on the road. So she wanted, in this particular case, it was she wanted that money in the bank for the city to be able to build a park. Ultravirus, outside the authority of a let's start with the council person to make that recommendation, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now what about if the council approved it?
Strike two.
Strike two. And strike three would be the lawsuit, right? Okay. So one case in which a city can be ultravirus is when you violate your own ordinance. And that's the most common thing that occurs when you're dealing with ultravirus acts. Another example, if this council were to, for example, require of a developer that they pay an impact fee for affordable housing. Layton City is going to put into play an impact fee for affordable housing. Would you be able to do that? The answer is no, because you've not only got your own set of ordinances that protect you and give you the authority to do what you do, but you've also got state law. And state law says there's only certain things that you can charge an impact fee for, and that would be outside of state law. And so you could get sued over that. I just want to tell you all the things you can get sued about, and then you can go home and sleep on it tonight. So that,
Well, we should be able to see
I
if we have you.
I don't agree, because you wouldn't allow us to get that far. And if you did, you wouldn't sleep very good.
You're exactly right. I would not sleep.
But that's, I mean, you say many things in a meeting saying, well, we need to look at it this way because we can't, it's already approved. So don't, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we depend a lot on CD and our engineers, and to make sure that we walk that line. Travel between the navigational beacons, is that Jimmy Buff or something? Anyway, yeah, that's your navigational beacons are your ordinance. I know you've never had it compared to that, but I do compare it to that. Here's another situation that occurred shortly after I did some legal work for another jurisdiction down south.
Before you came.
New lawyers. New lawyers.
Yeah.
So you have a mayor, and you have this young couple that come in and they say, we want to build a house, and really there is no staff. You have the mayor and the recorder in this particular city. They wanted to build a new house, and the mayor happened to be there, and he was good friends with the families of both of these young people. And then they said, well, we don't have anywhere to live in the meantime, so what we'd like to do is park our trailer up on the lot while they build the house. And if you don't mind, we'd like to do that and just live there until the house is built. And they're going, no problem, you got it. Just bring it on, park it. So they bring this full-size trailer onto the lot. They build a skirt around it, and they anchor it to the ground. And they spend $9,000 to $10,000 just anchoring that thing in. And then all of a sudden somebody catches on to the fact that you can't have a trailer temporarily on a lot while you're building your house. It's against the ordinance. The ordinance expressly prohibits it. So what do you got? You got a mayor who has apparent authority to make that determination, right? Because he's the head guy in the city who's telling these two that they can put that thing on the lot with a $9,000 to $10,000 cost. And they put out all that money, and now they're being told that you're in violation of the ordinance, you have to get it off. Okay, so that's the next thing we're going to talk about is estoppel, but that's another lesson for another day. Okay, how people sue you for doing these types of things. Contract cases are particularly subject to ultra-virus acts. If you were to go up to the fire station on the side of the hill and you are not to light the top of the fire station, you think that there ought to be a bell up there because every fire station has a bell, and you're a city council person, and you tell the developer, add a bell up there. Dave Thomas would probably do that. Mm-hmm. Add a bell up there.
And be a bell.
It'd probably be a siren.
Yeah, it'd make more noise.
It'd make more noise than that. But if you were to tell them to do that, and they were to rely on you and believe that you had authority to do it, there's a very good chance. First of all, have you acted ultra-virus outside of your powers? Absolutely. Simple. And then the question would be, can they sue you for damages? Because you've added to the contract without the city council approving that. So how do you stop this ultra-virus thing from happening, this virus from happening? You've got liability that occurs as a result of it, and the liability can be individual. For example, on the mayor's part, he acted outside of the scope of the ordinance, right? The mayor that authorized the trailer. And so by acting outside the scope of the ordinance, the insurance company that covered him is not responsible for covering him, technically, legally. And so the mayor, if he was sued by this couple for the $9,000 to $10,000 because they had to take the trailer off the lot, would have had to pay that $9,000 to $10,000 out of his own pocket. That's the result of acting outside of the scope of the ordinance. If the city as a whole, if you together act to impose an illegal impact fee, for example, you as a as a city would be responsible for an ultra-virus act, which would have to be paid for by the city, by our insurance. If you act outside the scope of your responsibilities, you may be personally liable for it as well. So the rule of thumb is this. Here's how you escape it. First of all, you rely heavily on your staff, and be sure to ask if you're in doubt on anything, on your authority to do anything. We have to ask, staff has to ask whether or not they have authority to do something. My approval of that big garage in the rear yard, it was either going to cost the city I worked for a good $100,000, which is what they paid for a super garage where they repaired their own vehicles. He had custom cars that he built and put together, and he put a lot of money into that thing. So the city would have had to pay probably the total cost of tearing that down and carrying it away. Okay. We could have enforced our ordinance. I want to be clear on that, because it doesn't eliminate the ordinance when we do something wrong, but we end up in having to pay for it. And so that would have probably been my personal responsibility as an individual, as an employee. Could have been. City decided to let him keep it and settled with the neighbor rather than by putting in some landscaping and some other things. But so, I mean, there are ways of resolving these issues or negotiating them, but the bottom line is your navigational beacons are the law, the ordinance, and the state law. And as long as you remain within those, you're going to be all right. You will not be acting ultra-virus or outside of your power to act. So, any questions on how you can get into trouble on this?
Just one statement. When you bring things to us, speak English. We don't care about Latin. Okay? So just say, hey, Dave, don't promise anything.
Okay.
Just come into the meeting, take care of it.
You know, Dave, I've got a Latin phrase that might apply.
It wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. I got one back.
Comprehend it anyway.
I've got one from the
He's
ski.
turning older
I'll
now.
get back to you.
Yeah. That ought to be a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. And like I said, we're going to jump down to item number 5 then. And Chad's going to talk about the proposed amendment for the Layton City Municipal.
Gary, was that your vote? The rest of us are local.
I know.
That was it.
Oh, you looked it up?
You have to hear one.
That's one
Say that
there.
again.
Rest of us are local.
That was it.
I like that.
Thing speaks for itself.
And for Dave, it's,
That was his vote. So
Yeah,
I
what's
now know
Dave's?
where it went.
for Dave's, it's de minimis non curat lex, which is lawyers don't
It says
concern
they
themselves
have
with
some.
little things.
Says what?
It's de minimis non curat lex. It means lawyers don't concern themselves with little things.
Well,
Call it de minimis.
Moving briskly on here, we're gonna go to discussion about our accessory dwelling units. So, just as a brief, for those, monitoring from home and for those who maybe aren't familiar in the council with accessory dwelling units, these are, just kind of move ahead a little bit, but these are essentially a subordinate unit within a home. These are not the primary unit, they're not a duplex. They only exist in a place where you have an established single-family home. So it's not a duplex, it's not a multifamily situation. And because it's subordinate, there are some rules that apply that make sure that stays a subordinate unit. Lots of benefits to these. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because of our limited time. But a couple of things that have occurred in the last year. In the last legislative session, the state now has required all cities to permit internal accessory dwelling units. We'll talk about what those are in just a minute. We're also going to talk about 2 other types of accessory dwelling units that are already allowed in Layton City. Talk a little bit about just a couple of changes that we're going to be proposing to clarify how those are going to be regulated in the future. Internal would be your standard basement type, or it could be even an attic type of a unit. Anything that's within that footprint of the existing home. This is what the new state law says that these are, that it's an accessory dwelling unit that's within the footprint of the primary dwelling, and now they are permitted use, as we talked about. So with the state law, they told us some things we can and can't do. So the cannots first, we can't restrict the size of the internal accessory dwelling unit in relation to the primary unit. We can't restrict these based on total lot size. And we can't restrict these based on the street frontage. Some cities had rules that said that if you have just a certain street frontage, you couldn't have an extra unit. But those are some things that the state has told us we cannot do with these. There's a lot of cans that we can do. We can still make sure they're subordinate by prohibiting them from installing a separate utility meter. We can have rules that make sure that their house doesn't change in appearance. Still looks like a single family dwelling from the outside. We can require one additional parking space. That was an issue that was brought up by some of the cities that we want to make sure you have enough parking. We can also require that if they take out an area that's historically been used for parking, like a garage, a lot of people will fill in their garage with an accessory dwelling unit. We can require that they replace those parking spaces that were already there. We can prohibit that they can't do this within a mobile home with that state definition, and we can require that they get a license for that internal unit. So those are just a couple of the parameters that we have as we go forward with this ordinance revision. I'm just going to talk about a couple other things, and I'm going to turn the time over to Brandon to get into the meat of the new ordinance. Again, we can prohibit it that these cannot be created on a lot that's less than 6,000 square feet. I think we need to jump the slide because I didn't see that one. Let's go on.
There you go.
So
There it was.
did I just pass it?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. There you go. Yeah, those are the other cans. We can prohibit them on lots that are less than 6,000 square feet. We can prohibit them from being used as a short-term rental. You can see that less than 30 consecutive days provision. And we can make sure that these have to be in the owner's primary residence. So the owner has to live within that residence. Now they can live in either the accessory dwelling unit or the primary dwelling unit, but they have to live there. So this is, again, just a couple of things to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about rear yards. We have our recommendations that we will stick with that state allowance and not allow these in lots less than 6,000 square feet just because they get to be pretty small. So when I say allow these, I'm talking about detached accessory dwelling units now. These are just a couple of examples of what types of units are out there for detached. This would be an ADU above a garage. And just to talk a little bit about our current ordinance, I'm going to turn this over to Brandon. Our current ordinance is pretty limited. We only have, this is really it. It's a couple paragraphs. It talks about that they are allowed. We do restrict them to blood relatives right now. We do require a conditional use permit. That's going to go away with those internal units, and we're proposing that would go with the detached and attached units as well. We have very limited direction in our current code about where these can be in that rear yard. So our ordinance is going to give us a little bit more direction on where those can be located in the rear yard. Brandon will go through that. That's kind of, there's two, I guess, purposes of this ordinance update. One is to meet this new state law, and one is to provide that clarification on that, where they can be in the backyard in the case where you have a detached unit. So with that, I'm going to let Brandon kind of start going through. We've put together some tables and things to try to clarify, and Brandon will take over.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Chad. So this table, I think you have in your packet, but basically identifies the three types of accessory dwelling units that Chad mentioned. So internally ADUs, attached ADUs, and then detached ADUs. The detached ADU section is divided into a single story and then a two-story. So based on the height limit, it'll fall either under the single story or the two-story. And then as far as design criteria, one of the things we looked at, or several of the things that we looked at, were height limits, setbacks, window treatments, and then outdoor living space and entrance features where those can be located, as far as like a walk-up basement or an entrance to a unit, and then ultimately the size limit. So right now we allow a detached ADU to be up to 40% of the primary dwelling's living space, up to 1,000 square feet. And so the proposal is to allow it to be up to 50% of the primary dwelling's living space, up to 1,200 square feet. So that's a change there. This has no limitation because it's internal, it's within the existing footprint. So we'll actually, each slide will go through these. So I'll move on to the next one. So this shows setback requirements that we would require for a detached accessory dwelling unit. So the darker yellow is the area that would allow for a single-story accessory dwelling unit. So it would be allowed to be 5 feet from the side property line and 10 feet from the rear property line. If it's a 2-story or 16 feet, or sorry, above 16 feet up to 25 to the peak of the roof, then it would have to meet these larger setback requirements. So it would have to be a minimum of 10 feet from the side property line and 20 feet from the rear property line. So those would be the parameters for detached accessory dwelling in the rear yard area. These are just some examples of single-story ADUs and then 2-story ADUs.
So Brandon, from the main structure back is 6 feet?
That's right. That's what our current minimum requirement is. Any accessory structure has to be at least 6 feet from the primary structure. Yes?
So I have a question on the setbacks and heights. It says in there that the ADU, the detached ADU can't be taller than the primary residence. Well, we have one on Angel that's a fairly recent conditional use that it's on the corner of Angel and 500.
Yeah, so
they built over a garage, but the home is a single story, so are those
yeah,
not
so in that
allowed?
case, that would not be allowed. So right now, we allow any accessory structure to be 18 feet to the mid-peak of the roof, which is essentially 25 feet to the peak. So yeah, in that case, that would not be allowed under the new ordinance.
And so does that then make that one non-conforming?
Right. Mm-hmm. It would.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's new. I mean, that's just a few years old. So.
Yeah. Moving on to the other type of detached. So this is a side yard accessory dwelling unit. So if someone wanted to either build a unit above a garage or just a single story, they would be required to meet the minimum side yard setback that is required for the primary dwelling. So, for example, if the primary dwelling has a minimum side setback of 10 feet, that side setback would be required as well for the detached accessory dwelling unit.
Just as an editorial note on this one, we expect this would be a fairly rare situation.
Right,
the way that people build homes now is to fill those side yards in, so this would be a fairly infrequent situation, but it could happen.
Correct. As you can see, this frontage is 100 feet, so you have to probably have a substantially wide lot in order to do something like this. So it would be
Is there a limit the amount of additional units they can put on the lot?
one. So one
So
ADU.
it does, yeah.
Our current ordinance does not specify that, but in our update, it says that you can have one accessory dwelling unit.
I don't know the specific, but I'm pretty sure the state law says the same thing.
I think you're, yeah, that is correct. Okay, I'll move quicker through these. We also have standards for on a corner lot where an accessory dwelling unit can be placed. So it would have to be a minimum, meet the same minimum side setback that is required for the primary dwelling on a corner lot. So it would not be able to be 5 feet. For an example, it could not be 5 feet from a side property line, so it would have to meet the same side setback. And this is an example over here. We talked about window treatments. So if an accessory dwelling unit is within 10 feet of any side or rear property line, they would be required to do window treatments such as obscured glass, clerestory, which is like a transom window. So here's an example of those types of windows, as well as skylights. So those would be options that they could have if they're closer than 10 feet to any side or rear property line. Or sorry, I apologize, I misspoke. If they're within 20 feet of the rear property line, then those window treatments would also be required. So what that does is it protects the adjacent property owner's privacy. If someone had, let's say, a 2-story, then they would be required to meet those window treatments in order to protect privacy. All right, outdoor living space. A lot of accessory dwelling units do have either, a patio space or a deck or some outdoor living space. So what this does is it restricts, or it also protects the privacy of the adjacent property owner. So a detached accessory dwelling unit would not be able to have outdoor living space within 10 feet of any property line. So if someone wanted to do a patio, that would have to at least be 10 feet from any property line surrounding the backyard. If it's a balcony or a deck above 4 feet, or 4 feet above the grade, then they would be required to be set back 15 feet. So for example, if someone built this balcony, this would have to be 15 feet from the rear property line. Does that make sense? I think Chad mentioned this already. So accessory dwelling units are not, you cannot have a shipping container, mobile home, or recreational vehicle and call it an ADU. So that's outright prohibited.
By our ordinance or state law?
By our ordinance, yeah.
Owner. I can jack up and take the tires off.
No. Nice try though.
People use the shipping containers in other jurisdictions. I mean, I've seen it like on the West Coast and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, there are some cities that allow it.
There's places where they become popular. Yeah, because build cabins and stuff out of them.
Right. I guess that was my question about whether that was something we wanted to specifically curtail, or if there's a reason to keep it. Because I think that's distinguishable from a mobile home or a full use.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
But we don't
safe
have
to prohibit it unless there's a specific situation where we could
Yeah, that's what they've designed guidelines.
Yeah.
look at it.
I'm just saying, if you just specifically use it, then.
But as far as the state goes, we're not being told we have to do certain things except increase our ADU.
That's right. The internal accessory dwelling units are required by state law, but the attached ADUs and the detached,
Right.
the state is not requiring us to adopt specific ordinances, right?
It's just that we allow them inside.
Yeah, within the building footprint, yeah, they're permitted.
Could they go up? I mean, if you have a 1-story and on your house,
Right, yeah, you could do a attached,
and
you could go up, like Chad mentioned, an attic space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could
But
use
if you
that.
don't have attic space, can you?
Yeah, you could. I mean, it would be an addition to the home.
Yeah, okay.
So as long as it met the height limit,
Right.
yeah, so. Okay, I think we, we're probably.
Yeah, well, we can, the purpose of this was, the planning commission, I think, is looking at this right now.
Who's looked at, planning commission's taken a look at it already before they're.
Yeah, because don't we have to by next meeting have it passed, because it's an October 1st deadline, so. Yeah, next meeting, we have to address it and pass it.
That's state.
The state deadline is October
Yeah,
1st, so.
Are we going to require a license for internal use?
We have,
That was discussion.
yes, it does talk about a permit, so we'll require a permit.
So one of my questions is, there are already illegal, whatever,
Yeah.
ADUs everywhere, basement apartments and such, that these that you're talking about detached and attached, they're gonna come in here because they're constructing something, it's gonna be a code and all
Right.
that. The internal one, as far as, why do I have to get a permit if Gary, who has one, he doesn't have to have a permit? What the enforcement of that? When do we talk about that?
Yeah, the state allows us to even have those folks that have built them without permits to get them permitted. So we would give them an opportunity to meet the code. Bring
And
us
that's
up.
just by, how do we're not gonna be knocking on doors or doing.
We find out about them through code enforcement or sometimes through another permit that they submit for something else. But we do have those come in. Neighbors will say, we think there's a basement apartment here, and we'll work through that.
Yeah, a lot of times if there's a sale of a property, that's usually when we find out if it's legal or illegal, so.
And that's probably gonna happen when someone comes in and says, I wanna do it, and we say, or you say, you gotta have parking, and there's no way to have parking. Yeah, but in my cul-de-sac, so-and-so has one, and then That'll be interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So
we already deal with those.
That's okay.
can I ask if we're gonna, you sent us a document via an email. Is there any way to have the PDF drop to us and drop?
I've got hard copies here,
Oh,
too, if
hard
you'd rather.
copies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can do a
Yeah.
PDF to you, whatever you prefer.
It's just easier than trying to, you can't really write on the documents, but you can if you put it in Dropbox as a PDF, we can make that.
AKA our,
So,
Do you want a hard copy, too?
yeah, I would like a hard
Yeah, we
copy.
have a hard copy.
Whoever else would like hard copies, we'd be happy to give you a chance to preview that. We are, I mean, we've got time. We plan to bring this to you at your next meeting. It's been through at least one public hearing at the planning commission. We did have citizens show up and give some comments at that public hearing. So we've had that, planning commission has recommended approval of what we've given you. So, you can take that and take a look at it. Well, we can talk about it more before the next meeting.
All right, thank you.
I just have one,
Thanks.
yeah, thank you very much.
Anybody else want a hard copy?
So that's, basically, we're gonna bypass the financial report. However, I do want to share with you guys, in addition, I mentioned our service project day. I'm gonna take that, pass it around. This is the list of all the projects, so that you guys will be able to look at them and see, what area you want to go to and help out, or, just go and take pictures. Would be good, because I do know that they want to get this document. That's really about all I had. Okay, I'm good. You want to adjourn? You good, Kim? Okay, that gives you your 5-minute quick break. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for. You're
Went out to our Layton City Council meeting tonight. I'm not on. Hello? You can hear me? Okay. Once again, I'd like to welcome everyone out to our Layton City Council meeting tonight, September 2nd. Our start time is 7:02. Just so those in the audience know that typically what we do here along with our council is we like to kind of, share the responsibilities. So each month we have a different council member be in charge of our opening ceremonies. And so this month, Council Member Dawn Fitzpatrick is in charge. So I'm going to turn the time over to her for that ceremony.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to take the opportunity and acknowledge some of our youth council and leaders that are here. And I just thought that a really good thing to do maybe so that the public could get to know who our 4 finalists are for the 2 council seats upcoming is I have asked for tonight, Bettina will offer the prayer and Tyson will offer the pledge. And then in 2 weeks, we'll hear from the other 2 candidates. So we will start the meeting first by having Tyson lead us in the pledge. All rise, please.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Will you bow your heads with me? God, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for an opportunity to come and work together as a city council, as a city of public folks who are here, God, to witness their city council and their government at work. God, we ask that you would be in the midst of everything that is said and done on tonight. We ask that you would give wisdom, that you would give discernment, God, and that you would give guidance in everything that the council puts its hands to on tonight. God, we thank you for the citizens, and we thank you for the rain that you've provided for us on tonight as well. And God, we ask that you would do all of these things in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you very much. That was a lovely prayer, and I appreciate that. And Tyson, thank you for leading us in the pledge. Okay, Council, we do have some minutes that we need to approve. So we have our Layton City Council work meeting for June 3rd of 2021. We have our minutes from our council work meeting of August 5th. We have a set of minutes for a special meeting that was also held on August 5th, and then our minutes from the Layton City Council meeting, August 5th. So if you've had a chance to look at those or have any corrections, please state it now. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to adopt.
First of all, there is a correction, and I don't know if it was just misstated in the meeting itself, but it mentions that it's going to be the 25th anniversary of 9/11. It's actually only the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and that is in one of the August 5th special meeting minutes.
Which one was that? Which meeting? August 5th?
It's one of the August 5th meetings.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of Layton City Council work meeting on June 3rd, 2021, the minutes of Layton City Council work meeting August 5th, 2021, minutes of Layton City Council special meeting August 5th, 2021, and the minutes of the Layton City Council meeting August 5th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Yeah. Second it.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor of adopting the minutes with the correction as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 2, which is our municipal announcements. So, Council, does anyone have any announcements there?
I have some, and hopefully I won't step on feet of other people who might be trying to announce this too, but we actually have a lot going on in September. September 18th, that's a Saturday, from 10 to 2 at Davis Hospital will be a Get Ready Fair. On September 15th, it is National Walk Your Child to School Day. This one's coming up a little bit later, but kind of keep in mind as you're planning menus for the month that Zupa Night at the Layton Zupa on September 28th from 4 to 9 p.m. If you go in and buy dinner and mention that you're the money for the Layton Communities That Cares, they receive 25% of the proceeds from that night. We also have on September 29th, the fire department open house. And last year we didn't get to do it. So this year it's going to be great to have that back. And you're going to talk about day of service.
Okay, so what, prior to all of that, a week from this Saturday is actually a National Day of Service Day, and it's to commemorate 9/11. But then also it's an opportunity for everyone in their community to be able to reach out and do something good in your own community. And Layton's decided to adopt that this year, and we've been working with several folks with our Interfaith Council, as well as our co-captains of our CERT program. So what I'm trying to tell you is we've identified over 42 projects in our city that will allow our residents to get out and show a little bit of love for their city. And so I'd encourage you to look on the Just Serve website for those projects. And the beauty of this is the more people we get to sign up, and depending on the project, the fact that you've actually signed up, we may be able to get some additional federal dollars reimbursed back to us for those hours. So that's not the purpose by any means. I want to state that clear. It's more about just, showing that you really care for your city. And I do appreciate all the organizing committee along with our Parks and Rec department that has put this together. And I look forward to it. And I hope that we see a lot of folks out there. Most of the projects are going to start around 7 a.m. And we'll probably wrap up around noon, but honestly, it just depends on the project. So we've tried to make it close to home, but if there's a project on that list that sounds like something you'd like to do, by all means, go ahead and go to that project. So again, it's a fun day to just kind of show respect and honor to the 9/11 holiday as well as your own community. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, Mayor, I have one. Tomorrow we have a municipal event in that it's Council Member Dave Thomas's birthday. And the mayor and I especially remember how much he enjoyed the Christmas cookies, so we've got a... Here you go, Dave.
Christmas. It's empty.
You ate them all that night?
I thought I did. This is worse than not cucumbers. What's the other one?
I don't
know. Yeah. Somebody will get it back at Christmas.
Yeah. That was good. Okay. Any other events? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on then. We do not have any verbal petitions tonight, so I'm going to bypass that and we'll drop down to our citizens' comment portion of our meeting. This portion of the meeting, obviously, is where citizens are welcome to stand up and, go ahead and let us know in their comments. We do ask that on the comments, if you're part of a large group, hopefully you've got a representative available that could speak on behalf of all of you. If that's the case, I'd certainly give them more time. Typically, we like to keep the comments around 3 minutes, but at the same time, I don't want to cut anybody short. However, if you do hear a comment that's already been made, we ask that you don't repeat it because, we will. I've watched our council members here and they do take notes and they're very well of everything. And so I just want that to be known. And certainly at this time, I want to go ahead and open it up for any type of public comments.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Can you hear me? Brad Richens, 1902 East, 2125 North, Layton, Utah. Concerning the Concerned Citizens Organization with the Cedarwood Apartment, Mobile Home Park. Council, today my comments have changed. The nature of the comments have changed in that Louise received a text from the city, from the mayor, that there will be a work meeting on September 15th. And we really appreciate that. That's going to shorten this meeting quite a bit. We'll go ahead and leave some of the comments, a lot of the comments, to the work meeting. And I think today we'll see mostly the residents of the citizens, the residents of the Cedarwood Mobile Home Park share some of their concerns, share some of their experiences and what have you. And so that the work meeting, we can address some issues. I do want to say that I applaud the city council for doing that, and the mayor. We really appreciate that. Secondly, I'd like to say that according to the 2016 legislative RDA restructuring amendments, one of those subsections talks specifically about mobile home resident relocation and the accounts that are set aside for this. So basically, we know, and we'll bring that up at the work meeting, there's a puzzling look. We know that the city has the authority to be able to fund this relocation process. We know that that happens. We can do bonds, you can do budgets, other things, and that's your department. But I also know that the Layton City Forward Project Plan specifically states that the owner has the responsibility to relocate these residents. And we understand that. That was put in the plan. And we don't dispute that. So the mayor has alluded to that. We have two private organizations. We have us as citizens, and we also have Winkle, the owner. However, if you look at that relocation plan, directly underneath it, it states that it can be appealed at any time. We admonish the council to deliberate about appealing that project plan so that we can get some funding for these dislocated by the population. Again, we specifically applaud that. As far as Winkle, Mr. Winkle, he's an intricate part of the redevelopment process. We understand this has been going on since 2004. We feel the lack of taxes that are being paid. We understand this. We feel, some of us, the problems that we've had. However, and we can speak with Mr. Winkle. We'd like to hear his plan, the relocation strategy and his plan at the work meeting. We're really excited. He's been a ghost. We've reached out many times with no communication. One thing I will say is we understand that there's no government agency to enforce any requirements or any guidelines for the relocation process. And so we can make a difference, guys. I believe there is a positive resolution. You may hear a little bit of frustration, but there is. We see in this country the left going left and the right going left, or right going right, but not in Utah. I know that we can come together with some resolutions. We have some creative ideas that we'd like to present the plan. So today, this is not a debate about population displacement. We just want to give these citizens the opportunity to be heard, and so I'll cut my comments short. I know there's a lot of them that would like to talk, and we would just admonish. We requested a translator. A translator was denied. Not denied, but it wasn't in the whatever it was. We requested a translator, but we do have a translator, and that's no problem at all. We understand. So having said that, I think Louise may want to say a little bit, but I would admonish as well the comments, as the mayor has said. If you hear the same thing happening over and over again, you may want to keep the comments to a minimum. And also, I just love the candidates, you guys. Those 4 candidates that we've reached out to, all 4 of them have been awesome in wanting to open the debate and the dialogue on as to how to solve the problems. And they're just great quality candidates. I'm glad that, yeah. So having said that, I guess Louise may want to say something, and then Mayor, you can kind of administrate over them coming up, and it's just their time to share.
Okay, I got to mention one thing. I failed to say that when you come to the podium, make sure and you did state your name and location, but for anyone else coming up, I know I failed to mention that, so please do so.
Yeah, para que cuando venga tiene que decir su dirección y su número completo, ¿ok? Okay. Okay. Okay, the translator and anybody, I can translate too, so anybody, you guys are up.
Or you can jump up.
I miss the days when all we did was carry a comb in our pocket. Mayor and members of the council and staff and folks in the community. I'm Dennis Howland. I am a Marine who served in Vietnam. I'm a state president, Vietnam Vets of America, and I'm one of the national directors. But more than that, I'm one of the proud partners that joined with you and brought the replica of the Vietnam Memorial Wall to Commons Park. And we thank you for that. Tonight, I'm serving as the chair of the Veterans Parade that is scheduled for November 13th here in Layton. It's something we take a lot of tremendous pride in. When we brought it to Layton, we found that we had finally brought it to a new home, and the reception has been incredible. It's a time that we can join with the community and honor all of our veterans who have served in the past and who still serve today. With as much military around us, it's important that we do this. So this year we've decided the Grand Marshals will be all those who returned from the Afghanistan war. We've invited them out of Hill, out of the National Guard, different units in the area in Utah. But we've also invited them to come as a unit or to come with their families and walk in that parade with their families so that we can honor the support that their families gave them while they spent the last 20 years fighting war. As a Vietnam vet, we can relate to that. Ours took 19 years, 6 months, and 2 weeks, and theirs took 20, so we're pretty close. So I'm here this evening to invite you to join us in the parade. It's on November 13th. The lineup is at 9:30 at Gentile and Talbot. The entire community would love for you to come out. The parade starts at 11 a.m. It ends at the wall. And there'll be an honors ceremony that the one Layton City does annually that we'll participate in. A couple of things we're going to do different is there's a couple of new monuments, small monuments being built in the park. One is a bronze battle cross that honors all of our fallen from the beginning of this country to now. And the other is a memorial. When we were raising money for the wall, people would come to us and they'd tell us that their father or brother had taken his own life after coming home from Vietnam. Other people came and said, my dad passed away, he had prostate cancer from Agent Orange. Are they going to be on the wall? And of course, our answer was no. Those 58,317 kids were killed in combat. So what we did was we were putting a plaque in that's dedicated to the memory of all the men and women who've lost their lives since coming home due to their service in Vietnam. That will be dedicated that day as well. And right now, it's kind of iffy. We may be dedicating a tree at that same area that Senator Stevenson is donating. And our intent is to educate children in the schools, have them write essays about democracy, patriotism, and veterans. And the winning classes will decorate that tree for the holidays each year. So that's happening. But we feel that we waited 40 years to somebody to say thank you and welcome home. The kids coming home today are our children, our grandchildren, and we're not going to let that happen to them. It's not going to happen. So we want to take this opportunity. One of the things I've done in this parade is I invited the governor to come. I will know 6 weeks out because he only scheduled 6 weeks out. But I've also asked for a proclamation to be read that day honoring all those Afghan soldiers, men and women, for their service across Utah and to honor them and their families. And so hopefully that will be taking place. And I would ask as a personal favor of the greatest partners I ever had. Several years ago, I stood in this place as Mayor Bob Stevenson then handed me a proclamation honoring Vietnam veterans. The city of Layton was the very first city in Utah that did that. And I would ask you to work on a proclamation that honors the men and women who fought for the past 20 years in Afghanistan and honor their service and welcome them home. And with that, we hope to see you all out. We love being in Layton with this wall. You're the greatest partners. Organizations are jealous of us because we have such a great partnership with you. So thank you and good night, and from the Marine Semper Fi.
Thank you, Dennis. We really appreciate it. And anything that Dennis has his hands in, he does a top-notch job on it. So I look forward to this parade, and hopefully we'll have a lot of participants in it. So, okay. Again, this is our public meeting, so if anybody else wish to state, want to make a comment, please do so.
Hi, my name is Mara, and I was going to talk about the situation with Cedarwood Mobile Home Park. I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of people here. As you can see, a lot of us that live here in Cedarwood Park are a little stressed and upset with the situation at hand. 14 residents have received a letter to vacate and leave Cedarwood Mobile Home Park by January of 2022. I know, like my mom and a lot of people have put a lot of work into their homes, and they're not getting compensation, they're not getting help. Families are going to be separated, so everybody is just having a hard time dealing with this. And we would appreciate your help in this to make sure that the people here have a place to go, because we don't think it's fair that they've lived here for 14, 15 years and they're told to leave with no help. There's a lot of kids, a lot of families that would have to uproot, and just, it would be really hard for them, especially it's super hard to find a place to live at the moment. It's really hard to move your mobile home. There's restrictions. Older mobile homes can't move. So we would appreciate your consideration in helping us. That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, excuse my dress. I came at like the very last minute, but my name is Nina Morales, and I live at Cedarwood, number 50. This is kind of the first time that I've been like involved. Like, I've heard about everybody getting together and stuff, and I do have my concerns. I've been a single mother like most of my children's lives. I was able to purchase my trailer within 2 years, like as a rent-to-own type thing, because my credit is not very good, and then with a single income, I get paid about $15 an hour, which isn't anything. Right now I have my daughter and my 2 grandkids living with me. My trailer is paid off and I pay a lot. And I have been a homeowner, so to say, for a year. And, that was really a milestone in my life to be able to say that. Excuse me. When I signed my lease as a homeowner with the park, I signed a 5-year lease that I would not move my mobile home within 5 years, so that they were not out any money. They hold my title for that lease. And like I said, I've been maybe a little over a year, I've been a homeowner. And now I don't know when I'm gonna have to leave. And so I feel like they're breaking their side of that lease, and then without having to compensate me for anything, where am I supposed to go? There's no way I can even afford to buy a home at all. And then on my income, I can't rent anywhere to support four people. You know, it's really a hardship on all of us. And I just wish they would have considered that before I got sold my trailer in the first place. I had no idea. I had no idea until we got those, or I heard my sister got her letter, you know, on her door. And that was about 12 months ago that she got her letter. And, you know, it's kind of a shocker. It's a shocker. Do I believe it? Don't I? Like, what's going on here? And I just really hope that there is some compassion in people that have limited income. I am one of the restricted trailers. I can't move mine anywhere. So I'm going to be out because it's too old. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, people. My name is Larry Pryor. I've lived in Utah now, in Layton, for almost 16 years, 1643 East, 2200 North, Layton. I'm a Vietnam vet. I came back in 68. I was in Vietnam for 67, 68. Lost a lot of friends. And I know what it's like to be moved from one place to the other. And these people here, it's just not right to just tell them to pack up and get out. I just don't understand that. This is America. We don't do that to people. We find solutions and we take action and make it happen. And I know that everybody put their heads together. They can do this. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tenessa Payne. I do live in Sideyard Mobile Home Park. And when we got this letter back in our spring newsletter, which comes out every March, I was really concerned. And I was looking into affordable housing opportunities, low-income housing agencies. And I've been looking, Layton City's been promising affordable housing. I would like to know where the affordable housing is, because right now all the low-income agencies are 2 to 3 years out. I mean, you're promising affordable housing, and the average 2-bedroom apartment costs between $1,200 to $1,500. And if you add on basic living expenses, that's way more than the majority of us make. I mean, it's you guys' responsibility to make sure your citizens are taken care of. And we just kind of feel like we're being attacked and we're not going to be getting any sort of help with those kinds of things. I mean, we see new apartment buildings going up, new townhomes going up, but they're all out of our expense range, and it's just not fair. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Renee Goregus. I live in Cedarwood Mobile Home Park as well. I moved there a year ago. I bought a home a year ago. If I would have known a year ago that they were closing or told anything, I would have not moved there. I'm currently in the process of remodeling my whole home. I've spent my whole everything, all the money that I have, I've spent remodeling this home from top to bottom. I put new siding, I put new ceilings, I put new floors, made it look like a brand new 2021 mobile home. However, I was told that I would have to abandon, sell, move. There's nowhere to move. There's nowhere to go. There's no mobile home parks available, none, to move a mobile home. You all heard most of the homes cannot be moved. I would like to see help, some kind of help, compensation, or something, and just something to tide someone over that they can be able to afford a new home or something. I think that is pretty sad because the laws are, and I don't want to get into the laws because I don't really know, but I know what I read, that they do not support us. They don't have anything in place for manufactured homes. People will be, what I heard, and this is just hearsay, but it's from the manager, that if you abandon your home, that it belongs to the park. I think that people are being forced to move, and then they will actually take the mobile homes and sell them or do something with them or keep them, and we'll be out. There are people that live in mobile homes that's like 1997, which is, I've seen pretty good, pretty decent, and they can't put it anywhere. And the only option is just to tear it down. You put your all into that, everything. There are people with double wide mobile homes. If they were able to move it someplace, it's almost $20,000 to move a double wide mobile home. Mm-hmm. Almost $10,000 to move a single wide mobile home. No one have the funds to just up and move. I moved here a year ago from Louisiana. I've been through Katrina. I survived. When I got here, I was practically homeless. I work, and I have a good job. I have a really good job. But my plan was to, Renika, you can move in a mobile home. It's affordable. I can save. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do. Also, our rent was raised in the process of all of this. So how are we supposed to save anything if our rent is raised, at the last minute? And then even though I didn't get a notice yet, but I know it's coming. I know it's coming, and I am preparing. But even if I am preparing, it would never be enough to afford somewhere with the housing market the way it is right now. It's really hard. So yes, I'm asking everybody to just have some compassion, make some changes, do something for us and help us. We are a part of here. And I do read the news. I see Afghans coming here. They're not even from here. We live here. We support the community. We do everything. These people out here bring money into the community. They give their income back to the city. So why not help us? If you can push whoever the owner is, somebody, show them, let them know that you can't just kick people out. You raise their rent right before you give them a notice. You kicking them out on the street, and I know a lot of things, but I'll save it for another day.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Council, Mayor. My name is Gina Stone, 189 South Main, Cedar Woods, number 36. I have lived in my home for 10 years. It was hard times, but when I moved in, I was so proud. I am disabled. I'm on limited income. I was so proud. I made my home my home. I followed the rules, made everything beautiful, and I support. This is my community, my family, my neighbors. I don't know a lot of them. They're still my family. I'm fighting for the poor 14 that will have to maybe leave in 3 months. I would do anything to help them. Every day I wake up waiting for the notice that I'm going to get that I'm going to be evicted. And where am I gonna go? I look around places to live. On disability income, I would not be able to do it alone. Roommate, I don't have family. to move in with. There was an important part I wanted to make. I love my community and my family. It is very hard out there. There's 71 people, families that will be displaced. Oh, I do know my point. In 2015, I remember being told that I had to sell my trailer, that there was no more rent. You had to buy or sell. No more rent. I've known of a few friends, family, community that scrambled to have to do that in 2015. I'm not sure who stayed and who left. We did our means to be able to stay into our community, our family, and our home. Borrowing from family, loans, banks. That is our asset. That is our home. To one day not be recompensated for something to walk away from, to be told you have to move and walk away without help, nothing, forced, evicted, and to turn your head and walk away for the last time and look at a home that you fought so hard for and raised a family. Look back with nothing, no help. It's fierce out there in the world. We all help each other. We don't know each other, but we will help each other.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to me.
Hi, Council and Mayor. Thank you for listening tonight. We do appreciate it. And thank you so much for the information today for a work meeting. You're just getting a smattering tonight. That information changed what I wanted to say tonight, but I've kept a piece of my information for you because I think it's important going forward. And it's a timeline. And the timeline begins with March 19th of this year, when some of these families received their eviction notice. And at that time, they had 287 days to evict. That was in March. In April, they received a promised assistance letter, which was actually, from Mr. Winkle, that was actually a list of mobile home parks in the area with phone numbers and the names and numbers of 2 people who were interested in scalping them for their trailers for a very cheap price. That time they had 248 days to eviction. May 11th, I had a good meeting with Lon Crow, learned something about what's going on here. June 4th, bless your heart, Mayor Petro came on site and sat at Cedarwood with some of these residents and listened to the stories. And we learned more from each other on that day. At that point, 211 days to eviction. July 6th, our representative Steve Handy arranged a meeting, myself, Mr. Gary Crane, Mr. Lon Crowell, and we learned more. Each of these times there's been conversation about what to do, but I have to say to this point, there's nothing yet. I'm hoping. August 5th, I requested a work meeting. Nothing came of that, so I stood here two weeks ago, and at that time there were 149 days to eviction. 2 weeks ago, at 135 days to eviction, which is more than half the time lost, I stood here and asked for a work meeting from y'all. And I appreciate that is going to happen now. And it gives me some hope for these people. And that it was 135 days to eviction. Tonight, as these people are speaking to you, be aware that they're down to 121 days to eviction. And by the time they have that meeting with you, they will be down to 108. So they've gone from 287 days to 108 days, and they still have nothing. The one thing that they're asking for is something that you have already committed to. I can't present it tonight because there's not time, but we have statements made by city leaders and staff to the concept that it is Mr. Winkle's responsibility to relocate these residents. And I don't have time to share those tonight with you, but I will at the work meeting. Emails and conversations, I will be sharing that at the work meeting. But the bottom line is that they're not asking you for anything new. They're asking you to simply do what you said you would do, and that is to hold Mr. Winkle's feet to the flames and make sure that he is the one who helps these people and helps them so that as they relocate, they stay financially safe and whole. And do it soon, please, because as you can see, as I presented tonight, their time is running out. I am gratified to know these people. I hope you get to know them. And I hope that you realize the importance of your support, your compassion, and your advocacy for them, because without you, they will be on the street. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good night. My name is Adriana Garcia. My address is 189 Sur Main Street. Sorry, I little speak English. I need help. Okay. Tengo 13 años viviendo ahí.
I have lived there for 13 years.
Tengo 4 hijos.
I have 4 kids.
2 universitarios.
2 are going to college.
A nosotros, a mi esposo y a mí, se nos haría difícil ahorita movernos.
For my husband and for me, it's very difficult
Mi hijo es el
to
último
move right
año
now.
de universidad.
It's the last year of university of our son.
Mi esposo y yo somos los que le estamos ayudando.
And my husband and I are the ones that are paying and helping him with everything.
Mis hijos se transportan a la Universidad de Utah en el metro. Para ellos está muy bien ahí la ubicación.
So my children go in the train. They use the train to go to the University of Utah. So the location where we live is very good because the train station is there.
Las casas están muy caras.
The houses are very expensive.
Para poder movernos.
We don't have the resources to move right now.
Nos va a ser muy imposible. Mis hijos quieren seguir estudiando.
Our children want to keep on studying, and it's almost impossible for us to move.
Pues no sé qué solución ustedes nos darían. Yo les pido que se pongan en la situación de nosotros.
I don't know what solution you could give us, but I do ask you that please step into our feet and feel what we are feeling.
No sé, como yo, hay muchas familias también con hijos que quieren seguir estudiando. Entonces quiero que ustedes se pongan en lugar de nosotros, que no estamos como en la situación de tener trabajo, tenemos, le echamos ganas, pero no nos alcanza para una casa.
So we, as my husband and me and my children, are many families that we do work and we work hard, but it's not enough to move and to find a new place and to buy a new home. And our children want to keep on studying, and we really want to support them with that. So please take this into consideration.
Por favor, necesitamos su ayuda, especial para mí. Mi hijo es el último año de universidad. Entonces, yo quiero que nos ayuden para poder quedarnos todavía ahí. Mi esposo y yo le hemos invertido muchísimo dinero a nuestra trailita.
My husband and I have invested a lot of money in our small trailer, and we really want our son to be able to finish his university year and to be able to live there for as long as we can.
Okay. Es todo. Gracias.
That's all. Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes. Mi
Good
nombre es
afternoon.
Gabriel Mondragón.
My name is su nombre.
Gabriel Mondragón. Tengo 13 años viviendo aquí en en Layton, en este parque.
I've lived for 13 years in this park.
Nosotros necesitamos que nos den tranquilidad. El año pasado estuvimos tranquilos. A partir del año que estuvo, no nos dieron ya más tranquilidad.
We need to be in peace. We need a peaceful mind. We had been in peace until we received this notice, and now we don't feel peace anymore.
El año pasado, la mayoría de los vecinos invirtieron dinero en sus casas.
Last year, most of the neighbors invested money in their houses.
En mi persona, yo invertí $15,000.
I invested $15,000.
Porque son casas pequeñas.
Because it's a small house.
Pero queremos estar como familia.
But we want to live in them happily with our family.
No nos alcanza para comprar casas grandes.
We don't have enough money to buy big homes.
Ahorita con esto del COVID, es muy difícil, el trabajo está bajo.
And now with COVID, employment is very hard, very difficult. We have less income.
Queremos estar tranquilos, no queremos que nos arranquen de aquí. Y si nos van a hacer eso, necesitamos que ustedes nos apoyen y nos den una solución.
So we want to live here in peace, or if we necessarily have to leave, we would like you to give us a solution and to help us out.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I think, one more. Go ahead.
I wanted the Cedar community to be able to talk all at one time so that they weren't interrupted with other people. But my name is Robin Waters, 98 South, 2200 West in Layton, Utah. And we are just south of the Bayview Hospital at 2215 West Gentile Street. We've been fighting the dog barking for quite some time, and we're asking for Layton City's help on that. I was here 2 weeks ago, as well as some of the others here from Cedarwood. And I want to thank Layton City for what you've done. It's not peaceful to live in our home anymore. We've lived there for 22 years. And I really loved where I lived, and I don't anymore. It's very stressful. It's causing financial, emotional, and physical stress. But I want to thank you for what was done. Friday, 2 weeks ago, Mr. Chad Wilkinson was at our home. I noticed the animal control was there. And interestingly enough, when those things happen, the dogs don't bark. So we have not heard barking for 13 days now, other than last Sunday. We did hear some barking. And Saturdays and Sundays are always worse. I freak out almost every weekend when I'm home and not away, knowing what kind of stress it's going to put on our family. And so I just want to say thank you, because your efforts do make a difference with them controlling the information around the community. I wish I had a community that I could stand up to and we could fight this together like Cedarwood does. Unfortunately, my neighbors are the sons and daughters of the clinic. So that does not help matters very much. But so the conditional use permit says, and I've got just excerpts of that. The building will be a one-story room surgery, officials recovery for the animals as a primary use. An indoor kennel area will be provided for overnight boarding and extended care for the animals as an accessory use. An accessory use, to me, is defined as like a piece of clothing or something that you wear occasionally. It's not intended to be something that you have as a primary use. Accessory use is also defined as a use customarily incidental and subordinate to the principal use and located on the same lot as the principal use. It's incidental and occasional. It's not part of their primary use of boarding the animals 24/7. Sometimes that's not necessary in itself, but it does as it's a convenience, not an everyday thing, such as a piece of clothing, sunglasses, or a necklace of some sort that you would wear. Ordinance number 19.14.080, determination and considerations. states that the Land Use Authority may allow a conditional use to be located in the zoning district in which the particular use is allowed as a conditional use by this title. In authorizing any conditional use, the Land Use Authority shall impose such requirements and conditions to mitigate the reasonable anticipation determined effects of the proposed use in accordance with the applicable standards provided in this chapter or elsewhere in this title, necessary for protection of adjacent properties and the public welfare. An application for the conditional use shall establish that the proposed use, and then it states, at the specific location is in harmony with the general intent and purpose of Layton City general plans and applicable zoning district regulations. It is necessary or desirable to provide a service or facility which contributes to the general well-being of the community and the neighborhood. Such use will not, and I repeat, will not, under the circumstance of the particular case, be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity, or injuries to property or improvements in the vicinity, and conditions imposed by the Land Use Authority shall be based upon options described in this chapter, as are any special conditions or requirements as may be specified elsewhere in this title. It is causing emotional stress. It is causing physical problems and everything that goes along with that. I've lost time off of work to help care for my husband when he is triggered by the dogs barking. That was last Thursday. I lost a half a day's of work and 45 minutes of overtime just to be out there to try to get him to be able to breathe. And the answer to that is not to just pick up and leave my home that I've lived in for 21 years so that they can have their commercial building there, and I have to leave my home to have peace. Ordinance number 19.14.104, all buildings and rooms used for boarding shall be enhanced with building materials, including sufficient insulation and glass thickness to dampen or eliminate noises associated with the animals being boarded within. The sound attenuation of these buildings and rooms shall be sufficient to eliminate noises associated with boarding animals from inside any occupied residential or commercial building. Outdoor animal enclosures, exercise yards, and runs will be located at least 75 feet from any residential use and from existing commercial outdoor patio areas, such as venues of entertainment. We can hear these dogs barking on the inside of the building. There is not sufficient enough insulation in that building to accommodate the noises coming from inside when they are boarding those animals. And we continue to ask for your support in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Or Robin.
Tom Tudor, 1757 Gregory, Layton, Utah. I want to make sure that a lot of the people in Layton City know what is going on, because I sure do. I was a Layton City police officer for 20 years and then a detective. I graduated from Weber State University police science courses. And I took care of many thousands of people in Layton City from 1970 to 1984. And now I am retired. I had 3 daughters that graduated from Layton Senior High School. And I know, because back in those days, I made only a low salary in the 1970s for official police officers. So I'm for the people. I have taken people that have had too much drink, not arrest them, but take them, open up the door, the family's gone. I take him up, lay him on the couch, take his shoes off, take his car keys and throw them in his shoes and go back on patrol. That was in the good 1970s. And now things have changed and changed. So I would suggest that if you want to make somebody on a committee and invite me, I can tell you everything about Layton City, even when that was the Kins Cafe down there, when us police officers had the Kins Cafe. And I met people in the mobile home park there that I helped many hundreds of times. I don't get to know you because there's such a revolution of going over, but I sure do like the people and the problems to be solved. And I'm not a lawyer, but I'm the best cop that you'll ever talk to. So I came here, you know, I was in the United States Air Force for 20 years.
Hey, Tommy.
And I was in Layton City Police for 20 years. And I worked at the Veterans Administration Hospital for 15 years, taking care of all our soldiers, because I was 3 years in the United States Army and 17 years in the United States Air Force. Now that helps you know a little about me as a helper. I help people. I don't care who you are. Okay? So just like Brad here, he's helping. And anybody else wants to need some help, I got a lot of connections in this city. I now know about
Mr. Tudor?
35,000 people.
Hello, Mr. Tudor.
Yes, done?
Do you have a specific point other than to let these folks know that
Yeah.
you're willing to help them?
Yeah, on the residents down there, I was probably the very first policeman to go down there and meet all the people in that park.
Okay.
I know every rock and stone in that park. And I helped a lot of people before, all of these people before.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know that you have a helper available. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Travis Christensen. I live at 106 Flint Street. Starting on July 1st, we noticed water was coming in our basement. And being in the construction industry since 2002, it took me a few weeks, but we started realizing there's in direct correlation with the irrigation on the corner of Gentile and Flint Street. We documented it every time it would happen since July 1st. We have pictures, document dates, and can show a direct correlation. Even with the rainstorms, didn't affect the flooding in our basement. But every time that they were watering their landscape, we were getting directly flooded. We live 5 houses down, and we're still seeing direct effects. The day if they water on a Thursday, we get flooded on a Thursday. They drop Friday, we drop Friday. We even had a neighbor 2 houses down at 126 Flint Street that noticed the same problem 3 years ago, and it got so bad for them that they actually moved because they got tired of dealing with the flooding. And I've contacted the irrigation companies. I've contacted the parties involved. I just want to state for the record, too, have no ill will towards the neighbors. They are wonderful people. But when it comes to this, everyone's attitude is it sits underground. It's groundwater. There's nothing we can do. This year, with facing the worst drought conditions we've ever faced, maybe ever, or at least in recent time, I believe it's more important than ever to find out the solution. This year, or today alone, we spent $1,300 trying to alleviate the problem. I'm hoping it'll work. But if it doesn't, the water's still going to be an issue. The house 2 houses down still has a pump that runs 5 or 6 times a day to get rid of that water. I was just trying to get some support from the council to at least try to find some sort of compromise, resolve, something to help with our water conditions. It's a sensitive subject for me. I care deeply about our conservation. I'm on the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials committee. I'm also on the Cross Connection Committee for the state of Utah. I'm building inspector for Salt Lake City for the last 8 years. And so I have just always been trying to help with water conservation. I'm hoping this is the last of our troubles for this year, but just want to make the committee aware of the issue and just hoping to get some support and help on it. Thank you.
Mr. Christensen, can you
Yes.
make sure you give us your phone number so that we can kind of reach
Okay.
back out to you.
Sure.
You can-
And I
you
also
can give
have
it
the
to Kim.
records if any of the council would also like pictures or the dates as well.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'd like to go ahead and, oh. Okay.
Buenas noches ya.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Jorge Zavala, vivo en la traila 58.
I live in the trailer 58. My name is Jorge Zavala.
Okay. Yo les quiero pedir a ustedes que por favor nos ayuden, porque nosotros tenemos hijos, son nacidos aquí americanos. Probablemente uno de ellos pueda estar en su lugar en el futuro.
I want to ask you to please help us because we have children. They are born here in the United States, and maybe in the future one of them could be here in the city council, sitting in one of your places too.
Okay, nosotros estamos viviendo con mucho estrés desde la pandemia y ahora con esto que está pasando es muy difícil para nosotros levantarnos cada día.
We have been living with a lot of stress because of the pandemic and also now because of the eviction. So it has been very hard for us to deal with the stress.
Y saber que vamos a perder nuestro hogar.
Knowing that we're going to lose our homes.
Y esto me parece muy injusto.
I feel this is very unfair.
Porque van a tener algún proyecto para hacer allí.
Because probably they're going to have a project to do in that place.
Lo cual es bonito para la ciudad.
And that's good for the city.
Pero es terrible para nosotros porque no tenemos un lugar a donde ir.
But it's terrible for us because we don't have another place to go to.
Les pido a ustedes que entiendan, que se pongan en sus zapatos.
So I ask you to please understand this and to try to feel what we're feeling.
Yo sé que los derechos ahorita favorecen al dueño.
I know that the owner has his rights and probably that's what's favoring him.
Y los únicos que nos pueden ayudar son ustedes.
So the only people that can help us are you.
Y tengo muchas cosas que decir, pero me gana la emoción. Estoy triste, no sé, tengo estrés.
I have so many things to tell you, but the emotions are so overwhelming. I'm sad, I'm very stressed.
Y solamente le pido a Dios que les elimine el corazón para que nos ayuden.
So I ask God that He brightens your soul and your heart so you can help us.
Eso es todo lo que tengo que decir. Muchas gracias.
That's all that I have to say. Thank you very much.
Gracias.
Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out, and certainly I want you to know that we've heard your comments, and I think we've shown that we do actively want to see what we can do. Obviously, you've known what our comments up till this point are, but certainly the fact that we've arranged for a meeting, that I think you see that we will do what we can within our guidelines. So with that, Council, I think if we could, let's go ahead and move on unless anyone would like to make a quick comment. Okay, all right. Okay, let's go ahead and move on then to our consent items, which is item number 5 on our agenda item. This item will be presented by our Layton City Attorney, Mr. Gary Crane, regarding a water exchange agreement.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This resolution, Resolution 21-40, is a resolution authorizing the exchange of water. Kaysville has some water shares that are Kays Creek water shares, and we have some water shares that have been dedicated to the city that are Kaysville, which is a different entity altogether that we can't use. And so the two of us would like to exchange those shares, and the law allows us to be able to do that. And so this agreement allows us to exchange shares with another city, is what it does.
Okay.
So the packet said Holmes Creek, not Case Creek.
Oh, Holmes Creek. I'm sorry. I got Case Creek on the mind, all right?
Yeah.
That's all we've been talking for the last several months, so thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good
Appreciate that.
clarification. Okay, council, do you have any questions regarding our consent item here? Okay.
Straight trade.
That's correct.
Nothing
Nothing
gained, nothing lost.
Nothing gained, nothing lost, the same amount of water for the same amount of water.
Okay, so it's water to water. Okay.
Okay.
It's a good question, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And I think that this shows that obviously, you know, we're constantly looking for better ways to kind of make sure we secure our water going forward. So, I mean, if this is usable water on behalf of the city, this exchange allows us to use it versus non-usable water. So, again, very good. Okay, with that, council, I'll look for, I guess, an action regarding our single consent item.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we adopt Resolution 2140, the exchange of the water.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Sorry.
It's been moved and second. All in favor of item A, exchange, our water exchange agreement, Resolution 20-40, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's go ahead and move on then to our public hearing portion of our meeting. This is this is going to be this is amend our adopted budget for fiscal year 21-2022, and Mr. Probert's going to go ahead and present those items to us.
Mayor, members of the council, I bring to you tonight ordinance 21-24 to amend the budget for fiscal year 21-22. In those amendments, there are a few different areas that are addressed.
Hey, Tracy, hang on one second. Excuse me, those folks that are still in the audience, if you're having any conversations, would you mind taking them out into the hallway so that we can go ahead and conduct business? We'll give you a couple of minutes. Go ahead and, you know, if you wish to leave, go ahead. But, you know, we just want to make sure we can kind of hear the presentation ourselves, so. True. Yeah, I don't want to offend them anymore. Okay, thank you.
We
Go
good?
ahead, proceed, yes.
You hear me a little better now?
Yes, thank you.
In those amendments, there are a couple of areas to address. Due to rapidly increasing wages throughout the state, it was proposed to increase personnel wages at this time and benefits for city employees in order to keep us competitive and also stay in line with the current salary survey that we use when we survey a number of the cities across the state. Those numbers are presented, as well as there was a contract or a proposal issued for replacement of the bubble air heater and inflator at the pool. And there needs to be an addition of $33,247 to that contract. That was the lowest bid that came in when it was finally sent out for bid. That's part of the amendments. The Davis Metro Narcotic Strike Force, that budget's being decreased by $1,318. The amount that they had requested was, the amount they received was lower than what they had requested. There's also an amount to recognize program income from the Community Development Block Grant Fund for $2,000. And in the swimming pool fund, to recognize the amount that's needed for the bubble air heater and inflator is being transferred from the general fund. And so we need to recognize that transfer from the general fund and appropriate those funds for the heater inflator system. Are there any questions related to the amendments?
Yeah, I have one. And that is I understand the personnel wages. What impact does that do on the benefits? Why are we having to ask for money for benefits? I thought it was just a wage increase.
So when you increase the wages, most of the benefits are a multiplier of the wage amount.
Okay.
So if you're making more, then your Social Security goes up, your Medicare goes up. trying to think of the other ones
Okay.
that go up that are multipliers of that, but basically all of them except for health insurance, that's the only one that stays stable. The rest are all a factor of the amount of the wages.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question, Tracy, on the wages too. When we discussed this a few weeks back in the meetings we had with Alex and them, that number was, if I recall, bigger by a couple 100,000. Is that correct? And why is it smaller now?
Yes, that is correct, Councilmember, and that's a great question. That number that we showed before was an annual number. We're just looking at those costs for the entire year. We're 2 months into the year currently, so we went in and refined that and whittled it down and looked at every individual position, and it took into account the timing of it, and that was able to bring those numbers down by the couple $100,000 you've referenced.
So the percentages of the numbers discussed then are the same?
Yes, yes. They'll just apply not for an entire year, for an increment of that.
Any other questions?
A question, more of a statement. What we're doing here is we're helping the police department. Is that not, that's what we're discussing here.
That's a large portion of the funding, and then also a cost of living increase for all employees.
We're trying to make sure that we have a competent professional and trained staff here in Layton City to be able to take care of our needs. And so I applaud Chief Swanson, the city administration, for looking beyond what's going on right now. We were in competition with all the police departments in the valley, and I think most municipalities are doing this right now, up and down the Wasatch Front. This is not unique to Layton City, but I want to make sure that the tradition's still here, that we have these good people. We are able to keep them. We're able to recruit good officers to take care of us. And so I once again, Alex and Chief Swanson, I applaud your efforts here to take care of the police department at this time, and I'll be voting for this. So thank you.
Okay.
I just make one last comment in relation to that, Clint. It is not just the police department. By and far, the majority of the money is, but is also a benefit to the other employees as well.
Oh yeah, no, and we've been.
I just don't want it lost in that it's just all police. That's all.
Sure.
Get that impression.
Sure.
I know
Yeah.
that's not what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that. The lion's share is for the police. I understand that, and the other city employees. This has been a difficult year for them as well during the pandemic. To the cities, we're here because of city services. That's what we do. We deliver essential city services, and we can't lose sight of that. And so, yeah, we're taking care of the employees of the city so that we're able to deliver city services. That's what we do. So.
And retain who we have.
Yeah, and we're fighting, just like in the private sector, we're fighting for people, contractors, people who know how to do things. And we here the last meeting we had the anniversaries for employees that have been here for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and this room was full of not just those employees but their coworkers and their families, and that's the tradition. We've got to keep those sorts of people here, and you can't do it if you're not competitive. And so, thank you.
And Councilmember Morris, I did not want it implied that you were saying any different. The other just hadn't been mentioned, so I'm just trying to bring that out as well as all.
Okay.
Yeah, we all.
Go ahead.
Councilman Thomas. Tom's over there. City's made of great people. There's no question. To keep them here, we try the best we can. Some of them won't leave no matter what. Some of them will be just because it's the nature of the business. Having been involved a little bit with them, they're just good people all around. We've got great leadership, and I don't mean me. And I don't mean to imply the councils, even though they're great people. But no, we've got great leadership within the city. And that in and of itself has created a city of workers. And they're proud of what they do. And I think that's, to me, that's what makes me feel good. They're proud because of the way our city's ran, the things that happen in our city. And hopefully this is a step forward. I don't mean hopefully, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And, but hopefully we can continue to keep that atmosphere, like Clint said, you know, that this is a family and not just a bunch of workers. So anyway.
Well, and I just want to share, I'm going to steal from Councilman Bloxham, as we had the employee appreciation luncheon yesterday. We sat and you know, got to see who all the employees are. And like Councilman Bloxham said, our city employees are a community within themselves, over 300 or whatever. It's another community within our city. We have employees that do all kinds of stuff. And so, yeah, we do need to take care of them. And I hope that the citizens aren't upset that we're doing this. We've got to stay competitive. We've got to make it so that we don't lose them to, you know, fast food that's paying $20 an hour for, you know, where we don't pay that for some of our technical people. We've got to stay with the market. Even though we're a city, we're still a business, and we've got to do this. And so, again, what Councilman Morris said, thank you to Alex and thanks to the chief and Steve Garside and whoever else was all involved in the decision that we need to move forward with this. So.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Anybody else?
Councilman Day.
I would just add for the record that this was really brought on by the police department and the competition and the problems that are there. I think all of us recognize the atmosphere that the police are under in today's world, the funding and so forth. I'm all for supporting the police department and what they need. I no question about it. At first, I thought it was a little inappropriate to try to tack on a raise for the others, and I expressed that in the meetings with Alex and them that day because we had already gone through that. However, I'm willing to accept that and make a motion to accept ordinance 2124 as it is.
You want to? This is a public meeting. Do you want to open a public meeting? No, that's
yeah, sure.
Ahead.
I thought sorry. Okay. I'll open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, once again, this is a public hearing, so anyone who wishes to speak on this singular item, then you're more than welcome to. Please step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing that there's no comments, I'll go ahead and proceed then. So, Councilman Day, if you wish to close the public hearing and make a motion, I'd accept.
Sorry to get ahead of myself earlier. I'll make the motion to close the public hearing and pass ordinance 2124.
And I'll second that.
Very good. It's been moved in second. Since this is a public hearing and also an item dealing with funding, I will take a roll call vote on this. So I'll start out with our birthday boy, Mr. Dave Thomas.
Yes, very
Councilman
strongly.
Thomas. Okay. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilperson Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Okay. Councilman Bloxham.
Aye.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Okay, there you have it. It's unanimous, and I think everyone spoke in all the right reasons as why this is necessary, and the fact that this is a matter of being competitive, but yet also showing our appreciation that we do want to retain the talent that we have. And I want to say thank you to all of our employees for doing a great job and keeping the city running. So, okay, council, does anybody have any unfinished business?
No, but we didn't get to discuss the rest of the budget issue in the last meeting. And I'd had a question for Tracy. Is it possible that he can answer that question for me? Okay, the question I had is as I went to recently purchase a new car, we had to drive around multiple locations to even find a new car. So my question to him specific was how is that impacting, knowing that auto sales are a huge portion of our budget? how's that impacting us because they don't have new cars to sell?
I do have a short sales tax presentation I was going to give in the other meeting. I don't know if you want me to go through that or. It's kind of
Council,
up to you.
I'll leave it up to you. I mean, certainly, if you're willing to stay tonight, we can do that, or we can postpone to
Okay,
the next meeting.
let me just load it up real quick.
Unanimous, you guys all agree? Go ahead and stay?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Then we do have some unfinished business, and we'll go ahead and allow Tracy to kind of present to us. You guys are just used to staying here this long, so,
What?
I suppose you guys just are used to having long meetings, so.
Not a long meeting. Short.
Make us miss her. And how hard it was.
Hello. The youngest person you got here is sitting right there. If he can't help you, nobody can.
Hey, we've got one out in the audience. We still have our youth council leader there. Yeah, one of our future leaders here.
Oh, and she can come up. She was here last time, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going to miss her on the youth council there.
So while we're waiting, have you gotten any feedback on the page thing? Are you still on the wait list or have you heard any more?
Still on the wait list. They said I'll know usually the end of October, the beginning of November.
Okay, fingers crossed for you.
Yeah. I was going to say, do we need to do a call campaign for you and make sure you get that? Yeah.
Okay, so just one of the slides answers the question a little bit, but to review our last year of sales tax, if you look at the left-hand side of the screen there, our actual sales tax revenue for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020, compared to the next column, 2021, a $3.2 million increase, 19.3%. And so that's huge. If you look at it compared to budget on the other side of the page, what I had projected budget-wise following a 3-year history, 3.9 million ahead of that, so 24% ahead of what we had budgeted. We were a little bit behind on our budget projection to begin the year, but still that's a huge year. Where does that come from? We have some major retailers in the city. Those are mostly the big box stores. They make up 16%, 3.2 million. Other retail is every other little business in the city and not some that aren't so little, make up 3 million of that, about 15%. Our car dealerships make up 15%. So if they start taking a hit, then that's a big chunk of where our money comes from. Online sales, good that came on a few years back because that's the fourth largest category now. Good to see that. Home improvement keeps going. Construction-related costs, those are also very big. And so you could see that if home improvement, maybe not so much because people are always doing that. But construction-related, if that was to slow down, that could, cause a little bit of a hole. And then we go down from there. I don't need to read the entire list. And I'll send these over to you guys so you can look at them in more detail. But it just gives you an idea of the categories. You can see where we are this year, the red line compared to prior years. And each of these spikes, I've mentioned this before, but that's the end of a quarter. So a lot of businesses only report quarterly. And so we're not really that up and down as far as sales go. It's just when we collect it. Car dealerships, this would answer Don's question. So from April, May, June, and now we have July and August. We just don't know the numbers yet, but the inventory hasn't got any better. And so I would suspect that that number keeps heading in a downward direction. So where typically, if you look at all those other years that I compare, except for the green, where we went up in 2020, you know, like I kind of joked around about that everybody got their stimulus check and went out and bought a new car or a new or used car. Most of the time, we're pretty flat from month to month, even over all the years. So we are in a unique situation. Maybe we're just coming back down, but I think a lot of it has to do with that inventory just not being available. I've talked to lots and lots of people that are out looking. There's just nothing to buy, so, or very little. So it's something we'll keep a close eye on, and hopefully it doesn't have a real big effect in the overall picture. Fortunately, it was mentioned in a previous meeting that we're a very diversified city. We have lots of areas to help support all of our efforts, and so hopefully it won't have too big of an effect. You can see our major retailers. I mean, a lot of this gap and a lot of these numbers, and even the 20% increase at first thought to be, you know, a bunch of people going out and buying, and things are still going really good. But you've also noticed a lot of that is inflationary. And so as the price of things go up, it helps us because we collect more money. But at the same time, we just passed a budget amendment because the price of everything's going up, right? Including the cost to maintain our employees. So it affects us on both sides of the scale. Some of this difference between the red and the other lines, it's not all, because I can't really say that, but, we added one big major retailer in it, and they're living up to their promises. They're providing a good boost for our economy. We can look at some of these just, as you compare other years, the major retailers, the car dealerships, everything, obviously, if you go up 20%, everything's going to be up. So it doesn't really, it's not really anything new. But I'll send that's what I had. I'll send them over to you guys so you can look at them in more detail. Any questions on that?
No, but thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Now it's on. With everything going up, we'll have residents asking us hey, our property taxes are not going to go up because our home prices or home values are going up, and that's not how it works.
Right.
In fact, your actual percentage is going to be going down.
Yeah.
We only get the same amount of money of the previous year plus new growth. It doesn't grow with inflation. It doesn't grow with the cost of the homes.
Right.
It's based on the amount previous. And so if we were to, as in we've done this, if we were to wanting to increase the property tax for whatever reason, we've done that in the past, that has to go through truth in taxation like we did with the paramedics. And so just to education, this is great because the sales tax revenue is lifeblood. The other part of the revenue is the property tax, and that's going to be actually going down. So
the rate will go down. The amount of revenue we collect will stay even, right? Unless you as a council intentionally increase that through truth in taxation. Some of the other areas, I mean, it's kind of good news for RAMP because they had a similar picture, right? You've 20% increase almost in what RAMP's going to have available to do projects throughout the community. So that's good news. The Proposition 1 tax, same type of thing. That's a transit tax, a transportation tax, and we use that on, trails and streets and all that kind of stuff. So all of those were in an upward direction. The hotel tax was rebounding. You remember it went to zero for a few months. And so it's not back to where it was, but it is, it's rebounding back up pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for staying and presenting that, by the way. Okay, anything else, council? Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Second, third, and fourth.
And thank you all for staying. I want to note that all 4 candidates running for these 2 open seats stayed and endured till the end. So now you got a good glimpse of what it's like
and
here.
The term is endure. No.